Hello. This is the first in my new series that I want to do called A Look At, where I take a look at things that I really like, or at the very least have a lot of passion for, and I talk about it for however long I need to. For this video, I will be talking about a game called Road 96. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about two characters from the Road 96 franchise, Stan and Mitch. This video will have massive spoilers for Road 96, Road 96 Mile Zero, Road 96 Prologue Book, and Road 96 Mile Zero About a Girl book. I would suggest at least playing Road 96 for yourself, but if you don't care about spoilers or have already seen or played the game, then keep watching. And before I fully get into the video, here is a content warning for the things that I will mention, with timestamps on when I'll be talking about each subject. Content warnings include police brutality and corruption, teen endangerment and violence, hostage situations, stalking scenarios, guns, the AIDS crisis, homophobia, and overall references to death and murder. Please view at your own discretion. If you're all good, then let's get into the video. In terms of video games that I feel have untapped potential and intriguing world building, is one that caught my eye 2 years ago. A game called Road 96. It was released on August 16th, 2021 for the Nintendo Switch and Steam, then on PlayStation and Xbox on April 22nd, 2022. Road 96 is an adventure role-playing game with a procedural story. It was developed and published by the French indie studio DigiArts, with help from the company Omen. The founder and co-founder of the company are Jon and Anne-Laure Finis, with Jon having worked as the director for the game Valiant Hearts: The Great War. He is currently the creative director at DigiArts and has worked on all the games that the company has produced, which are Lost in Harmony, 1111 Memories Retold, Road 96, and Road 96 Mile Zero. Anne-Laure is a producer at DigiArts and has worked on 1111 Memories Retold, Road 96, and Road 96 Mile Zero. Road 96 was in development since 2019, and the company faced great hurdles to get the game released on time. They talked about this development process in their documentary called On the Road 96 Documentary. Their journey in releasing Road 96 was met with positive reviews, winning 5 Pegasus Awards, and has honestly become one of my favorite games. So, what's it about?
I guess you're like the other runaway teens, trying to flee Petria. It's really dangerous to cross the border. You have to be careful with the people you meet on the way, believe me. Don't go fainting on me, but each decision could shape your destiny and Petria's too. Okay, I guess it's time for you to hit the road. I hope you're ready.
The game is set in early summer of 1996, in the fictional country of Petria. Over the course of multiple playthroughs, you play as nameless runaway teens trying to flee the country in search of a better life, as the country is ever steadily increasing to get itself on the top worst places to live. All of which can be tied to President Tyrak, who, in the game, is going against another political opponent, Lupe Flores, as elections are coming up after the summer. Which is going about as well as you expect.
Oh, honey, please. Flores isn't gonna do a thing because she ain't gonna win. Okay, sweetums. Now we film the minister. Get the crowd to cheer when he talks about President Tyrak. And boo when he talks about Senator Flores. Got it?
With that said, who you vote?
Tyrak is a liar! Teens are being imprisoned every day!
Tyrak is a fascist dictator!
Vote for Flores and save our country!
Stop them! Now!
Run!
I'm here, Sonia.
Oh, shut up.
Stop! Help me!
Oh no, we definitely don't do...
With there being protests, often favoring one political opponent over the other, with the
A protest happened recently on our roads. It was started by the brigades, as they always are. The police luckily intervened so that innocent people weren't hurt. Thank you, police. This wouldn't be a democracy without you.
Yeah. This
Remember,
thing's built like a tank.
these protests are
It's been
organized
specially made
by
for
criminals.
situations just like this.
Stay as far away from them as you can.
Quote unquote help with the police. They're also tasked to arrest teens trying to cross the border. In order to get to the border, you have the options of either walking, hitchhiking, taking the public transport such as a bus or taxi that you can call, or even steal a car. Whatever means necessary to get out. You have the options of having a smuggler take you, hiding in a truck, crossing and climbing over a mountain, taking a worker test that allows you to work offshore in the other country, actually going through the border in a specific interaction, or going through a...
Yeah, I forget the next couple lines, but then it goes...
All throughout your journey of getting your teens to the border, you come across a very colorful cast of characters. I'm going to be brief with a handful of these character descriptions.
Look, just give me the money and I won't call the cops.
A guy got stabbed here 2 days ago, and they never came. The cops aren't gonna show for this.
I don't have time for this. Just a Mitch you stole from me and...
I didn't do it.
There's Zoe Muller, a free-spirited 18-year-old with a personality and an attitude that...
My stomach hurts. All right. Yeah, all right.
3 in the morning!
is about as loud as her trombone, and has a family connection to somebody in Tyrak's circle of politicians.
I left home at the start of the summer. I wanted to get out of Petria. Like you, I think. My dad thinks I'm on a big road trip. Truth is, I'm never going back home again. To have a normal life? My dad says I'm lucky because I have a privileged life here. But that life disgusts me, especially now that I know... Never mind. Sometimes, yeah. But what scares me the most is going back to my old life. But enough about all that.
Hell yeah! This here's some of Rock's tastiest cream!
You're not the talkative type, are you, young blood?
What'd you say? Ha! Just kidding.
John Ursus, a trucker that's a wanted criminal in Petria due to being the leader of the brigades, the resistance opposing Tyrak,
We get stopped. Let me do the talking.
but has a heart as big as him.
Ears on? Over.
Ooh, that's Mama Bear, young wolf. We got a CB type thing going on. I've never actually met her, but I think I'm in love. We got CB nicknames for one another. I'm her papa, she's my mama. I want to ask her out, but I've been out of the game too long. Can you help? Thanks, kid. All right, I'm going in.
No good! Flippin' tire. Just some car trouble, kid. What are you doing out here? I can't believe you just told me that. Now, come here. You know attempted border crossing is illegal. You're under arrest.
Fanny Campbell, one of the cops in Petria's that's dealing with the inner turmoil of working in a corrupt system, all the while worrying about her son that is traveling the road.
It's just that my son, my adopted son, ran away. Yeah. Me too, kid.
Central to Unit 2, do you copy? Over.
I should get that. Just promise me something. Turn around and go home, okay? Your parents miss you.
Thanks for the ride, homegirl. Now I got time to work on this game. I can do better than talk about it. Give me an hour, and I'll show you the beta. You're one to talk, don't you think? Just drop me someplace with free electricity, okay? Need to charge my super dope tech in the back.
And Alex Campbell, a 14-year-old who I'm pretty sure is just Alexander Graham Bell reborn with how much he's inventing and overall being a genius.
Build my games, you know? Built that computer too. One day, everyone will have a computer like that. I'm telling you, small computers are the future. Hungry? Ask your small computer for food. Lost? Ask your small computer for directions.
That's looking for answers on his real parents that has ties with the brigades.
Well, I think my bio parents died in the attack too. It's from GNN, the day of the attack. They appear for just 1 sec. I learned a lot about computers enhancing this. Yeah. In a way, I guess my bio parents did teach me about computers. Thanks, homegirl. Guess I needed to talk and didn't know it. And that's why I'm on the road.
I'm leaving the other characters in the dark as they are more connected with each other. And again, these descriptions are very brief. I really could not recommend more that you play the game for yourself. If you don't have the time or money, go watch my sister's video on the encounters of Row 96, which I'll put a link in the description. It's very good and goes in depth to all the characters in Row 96 and their encounters, and I will be referencing her video throughout this one. With all that being said, I want to set the stage. Imagine this. It's dark and stormy night. You are driving along a barren road. No buildings in sight, besides the occasional trailer. One car passes by you every 5 minutes, going the opposite direction of your end goal. Something that you've sacrificed nearly everything to get to, and are willing to sacrifice your life for. Then, you slam on the brakes, nearly running over a man that was standing in the middle of the road. Laying the hitchhiker inside, he barely says a word to you, leaving you in awkward silence. Then,
all my cigarettes are wet.
he begins to tell you about how 2 men are chasing after him.
2 guys are after me. They've been following me up and down these roads. Up and down. I'm starting to think they'll never quit. They want to put a stop to me. I can't let that happen. That's why I'm out here in the rain and not in my cab.
This intrigues you. This man has been a bit creepy and off-putting since you picked him up. What has he done to warrant people constantly chasing him?
I think they're fans of hers. Twisted.
Then,
hey, something's wrong with your doors.
It hits you.
Stop what? I wasn't doing anything. I'm not going to do that. Do you know why?
As he makes it clear. Very clear. That you are not getting out.
You picked the wrong guy to pick up. You know that.
That you are trapped with him.
I'll tell you something.
The conversation.
I've been thinking about killing you. So better give me the right answers.
If you can even call it that. Reveals to you that
Good. Sonya did something bad. Real bad. I don't want your sympathy. No. All I want is revenge.
he's on a mission for revenge. Against a reporter of the country that you're trying to leave, Sonia Sanchez.
Those people need to know. They need to know the truth. Because of Sonia, my sweet daughter is dead.
And against a group of people that are considered radical terrorists within that country, the Brigades. All for the sake of someone he lost 10 years ago, his daughter, Lola. He gets more angry as he tells you this.
She didn't move a finger to save her under those rocks. Not one. Nor did those brigades. They'll pay too.
It's very clear that this man is serious and very dangerous. If you make it out alive, you may wonder how focused and how undeterred this man was to you about his mission. What are those two guys like? Are they private investigators? Maybe they're a part of the police force that got the tip from the porter and would stop at nothing to bring him to justice? Maybe they're a part of the brigades he was talking about, and upon hearing his want for revenge against them, they want to stop him. Whoever these mysterious men are, they have to be serious with what they do, if they dedicated this amount of time to chase this man. I know that was quite the scenario to imagine, but please, imagine this next one. You're driving along the road, but suddenly stop for a man in the road, with another guy pointing a gun at you.
Mitch. With pleasure.
You, drive! Don't look at us!
We're your worst nightmare.
Watch it!
We're your worst nightmare. That's who we are.
Shut up and step on the gas.
Your car is being hijacked by two people that just got done robbing a...
Our motto not starting outside the laundromat after we rob it. Humiliating.
laundromat? Before you can begin to think about how weird of a location that is to rob,
It's your fault, you know.
My fault? Oh, that's rich, Mitch.
the two start to bicker. They are arguing about who is at fault.
You know what, Mitch?
They aren't even paying attention to you.
Robbing partner.
Until the suggestion is made that you should rob with the man in the back seat.
Like this kid.
Fine. Take the kid. He's clearly a criminal anyway.
This is getting out of hand. You just wanted to leave the country.
Hold on.
Instead, you're forced to listen to this quite frankly ridiculous argument from two dudes who are dressed in the most outlandish outfits. Something that's even commented on by the reporter, Sonia Sanchez, when you turn on the radio.
A laundromat robbery happened about an hour ago.
Ah, jeez.
Witnesses say the two robbers, both dressed like they were into S&M role-playing, argued the entire time. Though the suspect only made off with $72 in quarters, they are said to be armed and very dangerous. If you see them, please call the police immediately.
We're laughing stocks.
And Sonya reporting it, no less. Oh, jeez.
Then,
Only one thing left
an
to do.
odd turn of events.
This is the right move, and I'll give the kid Mitch's ultimate bank robbing quiz.
Yeah.
You need to start thinking about your future, kid. Here's how it works. Get enough questions right, you and Mitch become Robin partners.
You had to take a quiz in the style of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That tests your criminal mind to see if you're eligible to become this man in the back's robbing partner.
Best location to rob. The clock is, ticking.
It's a very odd quiz with even odder explanations for the right answers.
Yeah, that's right. Not much security. And there's food. Question number 2. When is the best time to rob? Yeah, that is the best time to rob. Visibility is low and mysteriousness is high. Question 3. What is the best getaway vehicle? Yeah, because from inside it, people look like ants. Question 4. The final question. What is the best thing to do with your money at your hideout?
Is this your final answer?
Yes, that is the best thing to do.
We need to not explain why, for obvious reasons.
Should you succeed in the quiz, these two decide in the end that they can't be separated.
So I guess you and the kid are gonna partner up now, eh?
Stan, hold on.
Yes, Mitch?
Though the kid and I's Robin compatibility is through the roof.
No doubt.
I cannot imagine Robin with anyone but you.
Nor I, Mitch. Nor I. Glad we kept
And
the pig
then
as
they
a
take your car.
souvenir.
Come on, let's keep the car. And ditch the kid.
Sounds good to me, Mitch. You hear something, Mitch?
I did not, Stan.
I know what I asked you to imagine seems ridiculous. Two completely different scenarios in the mood, characters, circumstances. Believe me, it was ridiculous for me when I had this happen to me when playing Road 96. But imagine the intense whiplash that I got when I made the connection that those two bumbling robbers dressed like they've been to too many adult clubs were the same two men that were after that old man with a gun. Those two being
Stan and Mitch!
Stan and Mitch are a bunch of bank robbing brothers that surely are a force of.
You're safe. Where is it?
This is a Super Surfer.
Wrong answer, friendo. I'm holding a shotgun.
Something. They claim that they aren't concerned about the political world around them. They're apolitical.
But, before you go, maybe you want to ask us something?
Steal as much as you can.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Mitch and I prefer to remain apolitical.
Regardless, they only have two thoughts in their head.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
We did it, Mitch. We robbed the big one. First Patreon National. That's mighty kind of you to say, kid.
Hey, little lady, you've heard of Stan and Mitch, right?
I knew it, Mitch. We're famous.
Woohoo! Okay. From what I can tell, the place is empty.
Because this place might have some important information. There's a psycho after Sonia, and we need to protect her.
Yeah, sweet Sonia's in danger. Yeah, well, she's a national icon.
That crime being to stop Jared, the man from that encounter I described earlier, from killing the other character, Sonia Sanchez. When you come across them, you get mixed up in their antics that try to do one of these two goals.
Take the pig and get everyone's money! Time to donate to the Stan and Mitch Fund!
Stan!
You there! Wanna be part of something big?
Whether that be them giving you a ride to the border and suddenly find yourself in a high-speed car chase, or being forced to help them with a problem, robbery or detective work otherwise. Typically with threats of violence.
Stan!
You there! Wanna be part of something big? Yeah, you do. Okay, so Mitch is casing out the place. We need to be real quiet. Embrace your criminal destiny, kid. Now shut your trap.
But it seems that you're never actually in any danger. Stan and Mitch half the time are bickering at each other.
Finally! I thought we'd never get it.
Stan, we talked about this. You need to work on your patience.
And the other half are bickering at you.
Like we didn't already know that. Let's do this already.
Besides maybe one or two instances of violence, you could never actually die within their encounters. I mean, you might get a headache with these two, but never actually harmed. Originally, when I was going to make this video, I was just going to go off of what I thought, and technically, I still am, but I figured it would be useful to make a small forum as I was curious if there were others that had any wildly different opinion on Stan and Mitch. Whenever I look at social media and talk with my friends that have played the game, they love Stan and Mitch, or at the very least don't have any problems with their characters. I made the forum only center around the first game, as I wasn't counting on people having read the supplemental material or having played the second game. So far, at the time of writing this, there are 44 responses.
485, sir.
It was about what I had expected. People found them lovable and that they had provided much needed comic relief for the story. More often than not, their first encounter of Stan and Mitch was the one I described earlier.
And I'll give the kid Mitch's ultimate bank robbing quiz.
Which would set the tone that these two guys are not serious robbers at all. I mean, they bicker, it's in the style of a TV show, and they don't actually harm you if you get the answers all wrong. Stan just physically kicks you out.
Kid. The wheel, Mitch.
The second heist one was the one where they chased after the would-be killer in a high-speed car chase, which had one of their iconic catchphrases of all time, so...
Stan and Mitch and the kid!
Usually the first impression people could have of them would show that they had the capability of being nice to your player character, or at the very least, not harmful. Their views on them would slightly change after one plot point occurs, which I'll get into later. Overall, people just enjoyed their characters because they were fun and funny, and that's how I felt for the longest time, and still feel. They have such a unique design with their clothes and weapons they use, and their mask and means of transportation. The line delivery that Stan's voice actor, Matthew Vanston, has never failed to make me laugh.
What'd you say, kid? Can't hear ya. On account of the wind.
Little lady wants you to slow down, Stan.
Mitch, hard as I try, I can't hear you neither. On account of the wind. I see your lips are moving, and I know you are speaking to me. Yet pains me to say, I cannot hear you. On On account of the wind.
As well as Mitch's voice actor, Christian Lanson. I feel like he has some of the best underrated lines.
You used my lucky lockpick to get in. It's lucky because I've never had to actually use it.
Thanks, little lady.
Why are you thanking her? She forgot to cut it.
Stan, she's not an expert criminal like us. I got it, Stan.
Finally! What took you so long?
You know I don't like to rush things.
This is a break-in, Mitch! Hold on. Try 9999.
That's not it.
You haven't even tried it!
It's 9 4 times. No one has that password.
Their voices complement each other well, and I can't see them having different voice actors. It adds to their comedy.
Now you're talking! Mitch, give me that bag for the loot!
The bag? I thought you had it.
Mitch!
And the overall plotline that they had within Row 96 was really good. Speaking of the plot, the way that I would describe Row 96 plotline is that there are at least 3 ongoing ones. Plotline A is centered around Zoe and arguably the teen crosses you play as. Plotline B is centered around John, Fanny, and Alex. And plotline C is centered around Sonia, Jared, and Stan and Mitch. These 3 plotlines have more fleshed out moments than others, and that's more than likely due to the fact that production of this game was hell, to say the least. But what we got, I feel like, was really good. However, this didn't stop me from thinking that Stan and Mitch were outliers. Outliers from their connection to Petria, that is. Here's what I mean. You're a teen in a country that is held in a tyrannical grip by its leader. You're trying to make it out alive. The characters that you come across are impacted by the politics of Petria. Zoe, a teen that had a goal to leave the country but comes to realize the secrets and how she wants to make a difference. John, a tired, worn-out leader of a group that is getting increasingly violent due to the co-leader, but manages to get out of it. Fanny, a cop that didn't want to acknowledge the harm coming to children, but learns to not be a part of that system. Alex, a young boy struggling with his identity as his parents has tied with the brigades, and wonders what role he should play, a revolutionist or a kid making video games. Sonia, who is a celebrity engaging in political propaganda that aids Tyrek, and also has a deep underlying problems and trauma related to the attack in 86. And Jared, who really isn't even all that political himself.
Oh, is he still our president?
He doesn't even know what the current president is. Is he stupid? But still is willing to commit what would basically be political assassination against the brigades, and Sonia, who, again, is heavily involved in the political propaganda. Also, he can get revenge for a lost loved one. My point is that they all have this connection to the world and politics in Petria, and that because of this connection, they end up going through a significant character arcs, or character developments in their encounters, or by the end of the story. You actively learn about their past, who they were, and you can help shape who are they going to become, in a lot of ways. Stan and Mitch in the Row 96 game are an enigma. As stated before, they don't get involved in politics, and this holds true. Whenever you talk with them about political topics like the brigades, or how to cross, or the current state of Petria, they give simple answers. They don't vote, they can't legally anyway.
Unfortunately, due to our priors, this is an impossibility.
Yeah, if you got a criminal record, you can't vote, kid.
They wouldn't want to aid in the brigades, near the cops, of course.
Mitch and I prefer to remain apolitical.
They give tips on surviving the road from a criminal's perspective.
Steal as much as you can.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
We don't get any major backstory where it's revealed that the brigades did something to them in the past. You don't really talk about the wall with them. Hell, they watch the Sonia show, but they don't seem to engage in the propaganda she's spewing.
I wonder what she's gonna wear today.
Me too. That pink number, maybe.
They don't make any real comments on Tyrek. I think they just like the idea of a female president possibility.
Want to see a female president, do ya? I get that.
Though they are aware her chances are low.
That would be quite unexpected.
Yeah, quite unexpected.
They do go through a significant character shift and development, but it's only partially aided by the player, depending on the actions taken. And even then, it's not an encounter that the teen has with them, it's just a key plot point in the story that mostly ties up plotline C. But in terms of emotionality and connection to the world and politics of Petria, which I cannot stress more that it's a key core to this game, Stan and Mitch are outliers, and are just seen as a comedy duo. And many people from the forum seem to like this about them as well. Their comedy gives them that break from the seriousness of the story. I've had a few people point out in the forums that there is some nuance to their characters, but it isn't explored as much from the encounters that we got. And I do agree that their comedy is a nice break from the politics, but I also agree that there was nuance that wasn't explored. The conclusion to their story is nice, I loved it, but the lack of concrete backstory or major connections to the world of Petria, the lack of emotionality, made me yearn for more. So, getting pictures and red string, I decided to dig more for Stan and Mitch content. This included watching the documentary on Road 96, reading the prologue book that was released the same time as the first game, playing Malzero, which, while they weren't shown as much, brought at least one significant find, and I also read the About a Girl book, being released the same day as Malzero. I replayed Road 96 multiple times, truly analyzed each mission with Stan and Mitch, and the characters that they had direct ties with. I spent 2 years with this first game and first book, and now, oh shit, nearly 1 year with the second book and game, and I've come to the conclusion that Stan and Mitch are severely underrated and overlooked, and that's what the video is about. The hidden depth of Stan and Mitch. Before digging into the extra content, such as the books, the documentary, and the second installment of the game, I thought that it would be beneficial to go over the main game, the Stan and Mitch encounters, and the arc that they go through. Later on in this video, I'll be looking and discussing the supplemental material and making a proper timeline of events, as well as re-looking at all the encounters with a new and fresh perspective of having the knowledge of the supplemental material in mind. There will also be theoretical discussions that I'll have near the end of the video as well, and then concluding thoughts to summarize this whole thing. Because the encounters for every character are random, besides Zoe's, it may be a little harder to create a real timeline for them. However, there is a set plot point with them, which is measured by the teens that you play as. Here's what I mean. The beginning of Road 96 takes place in the early summer months of Petria in 1996. You make your way across the country with multiple teens over the course of your playthrough. The game officially ends on Election Day, September 9th. On a normal playthrough, it would take you about 6 teens to get to the date, unless you die early or get arrested before you make it to the border. Throughout the course of the game, you make decisions that will alter characters' fates, arcs, or development, or change the trajectory of what's going to happen within the country. You can either be a teen that wants to vote to change the country, a teen that is a revolutionist, or a teen that is only concerned with getting out of there. And on Election Day, you see your results pay off in some way. Either the country gets a new president and Tyrek is charged for the variety of crimes he's committed, or stays as president and it gets much worse. When it comes to the characters that you meet, it's very hard to get all the encounters for every character in your first playthrough. Oftentimes you have to do a New Game Plus in order to get the rest. And I think that you are guaranteed to get one encounter from each character in your playthrough. You just may not be able to get all their encounters, like I said. However, even if you don't get all the encounters, I'm going to assume that they still happen in some way. Because there's a point in the game where your player character is stuck in prison for weeks, and this happens at the end of the story. And it has to happen. And the whole point of the game is that you play countless nameless teens, so there's just a chance that a teen is doing what you would have been doing. I have no proof of this, but I don't see any reason why this wouldn't happen, unless the dev tells me otherwise. I'm going to do a rundown of each encounter that you can get, and then get into the specific plot point that occurs when you play as your 15. I'll just be going in the order that I placed in the Google form, while also talking about how people felt for each encounter, if they gave an exact opinion at all. I'll also be referencing my sister's ranking as well, in terms of how it's viewed. First encounter is Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. In this encounter, you manage to get a ride from Stan and Mitch, and just chit-chat.
Huh, I've never seen that shade of green before.
She's gonna get sick on the hog, Stan. I knows it.
Though Stan claims he doesn't hear you due to the wind.
What'd you say, kid? Can't hear ya. On account of the wind.
Little lady wants you to slow down, Stan.
Mitch, hard as I try, I can't hear you neither. On account of the wind. I see your lips are moving, and I know you are speaking to me. Yet pains me to say, I cannot hear you.
But I know this to be a lie.
Protective goggles?
Ha ha! Protective goggles!
Stan asks you to look behind in the bag as Mitch isn't able to due to his issues with the lower lumbar.
Now you know I have issues with the lower lumbar.
Right, your issues with the lower lumbar. Kid, check the bag in the back.
Stan then proceeds to run over an animal, and if you're observant enough, you see Mitch's eyes get red, which is how the character models in Road 96 show that they're crying. Stan, you are going to hell for that one. In the bag, you see money, and rightfully ask about it.
The bag? Couldn't say, but it is not stolen dollar bills.
Most definitely is not.
They declare that they just robbed First Petria National. Talking with them and then looking in their sidecar, police sirens suddenly blare out, and you guys are engaged in a high-speed chase.
Cops, Stan!
If they start shooting, we're goners!
For some reason, Stan wants you to do something. So, you get this big brilliant idea of throwing the money at the cop car. This is literally one of the hardest minigames in my eyes. You really need to be precise as the cop car is swerving around. If you succeed, the cops take off with the money that is stuck to the window.
They stopped for the money.
Which ended up being all the money that they stole. And they are upset, but
Darn money. It's your fault, kid.
after reassuring them, they are fine with it, and they take you to the next stop.
Kid, for your quick thinking, we'll take you a little ways further, okay?
If you fail, the cop car pulls you over, causes them to get arrested, and you can either try to talk your way out of it and bribe the cop, or get arrested. Stan and Mitch just manage to escape and hightail it out of there.
You can't tell, but I'm crying on the inside. Your little road trip ends here. I'm placing you under arrest. What the? Stop! Stand and
Overall, it's a simple encounter that shows their comedy, but does lack the plotline involving them chasing after the guy after Sonia Sanchez, which may be why it's the lowest ranking one in my series video. The most I've seen people talk about this encounter is how the minigame is really frickin' hard, and that these two were funny and fun.
Well, Mitch and I are nice people.
No, really nice.
Second encounter on the list is Some Like It Hot. In this encounter, you come across a super supper, which is basically the McDonald's of the universe, and you head inside. You are able to buy food, and have a chance to get some free stuff as well. Sitting down, you make small talk with the cashier.
I know what you mean by hitchhiking, but you should stay and try to make a difference here.
Suddenly,
oh no!
This here, ladies and gents, is what you'd call a robbery.
Woohoo!
Nobody move!
they realize that the super supper doesn't have a safe,
Well, gun or not, the Super Supper still doesn't have a safe.
and Mitch left the bag for the money somewhere on their bike, probably.
The bag? I thought you had it.
Mitch!
You can make snide remarks throughout this whole ordeal, pissing Stan off even more.
You shut your pie hole!
They decide to use a piggy bank, and while Stan wants Mitch to go collect the money, Mitch doesn't want to.
I don't think I should leave the door, Stan. You know,
in case someone comes in.
Are you killing me, Mitch?
So, Stan forced you to do it at gunpoint. Either you forcefully collect the money, peacefully collect the money, or don't collect the money at all, as the timer goes down. Once the timer goes down, or you collect the money and hand to either Stan or Mitch, they say how they are going to take you hostage.
Kid.
Now you're coming with us.
Yeah, wouldn't be a good robbery without a hostage. Stan and Mitch rules.
Then the woman starts screaming. And you can use this opportunity to either jump on Stan.
Ah, get off of me! Let's go, Mitch.
You saved our lives, bro. It's just too bad they got my pig. Dude, my dreams were in that pig.
Or do nothing and Mitch will just hit the woman with his crowbar.
I'll handle this, Stan.
Whether he actually kills this woman, I'm not sure. And if you sell the woman out right away, then they'll just book it.
You little piece of
Be a good robbery without a hostage. Stan and Mitch rules.
Let's get out of here.
When you go with them as a hostage, they'll count their money and see it as a win regardless of the amount.
$122. Best robbery ever!
We're rich!
When having a convo with them, they say that they aren't going to hurt you and that they just want a fake hostage, as it was a part of the rules.
We're not gonna hurt you, kid. Just needed a fake hostage. Stan and Mitch rules.
They give you some money and then they leave.
Here, kid, for your emotional duress.
Another encounter that's really only focused on them being criminals rather than going after a man and protecting Sonia. But this is still a fun encounter nonetheless. My favorite thing to do is eat my food in front of Stan, and him being almost offended that you're doing that.
You're eating, really? You know I see you, right?
Actually, an interesting thing, when I did the form, at the time of recording this, only one person got this as their first encounter with them. I really don't know why this is the case. Either way, I think that this is a fun encounter. Third encounter on the list is nobody's supposed to be here. In this encounter, you're walking along the side of the road when you have to take a detour in some desolate area when you come across an old rundown house. As you are going up the stairs and making your way through the ruins, you can see in a rundown room in the lower level that Stan and Mitch are watching TV.
Well, maybe we don't have to wait.
There's a plank that you have to walk across the hole in order to get back on track to the main road. It breaks, then you fall in.
You hear that? Ugh, that's not the creep after Sonia, is it?
Nope, kid ain't nothing but a hitchhiker. Tie her up.
When you wake up, you get robbed by them. Their dialogue varies depending on how much money you have. When begging for the money back, they knock you out, and you can hear them talking about getting back to an investigation and how they need to figure something out.
I feel like I'm going crazy, Mitch.
Yeah, me too.
And if we don't crack this suit, it'll be too late.
Quiet, little lady. Do I have to show you the beast again?
Yeah, shut your trap. Let the grown-ups think in peace.
You offer assistance, and with either dialogue that relates to having met Sonia prior if you did, or just overall offering to help.
Stan, remember what we read in the Goss mag?
Oh yeah, she had a kid in her limo. Ah, hell, Mitch. Maybe I'm crazy, but maybe she can help.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to, they get you to anyway, saying they'll give you back the money if you can figure out when the would-be killer is going to attack.
Help us, and you'll get your money back.
They have a wide variety of evidence that leads to finding out the day the killer would strike. And their different dialogue if you made it past a certain point, or if you got other clues about the killer in previous encounters.
We know what he looks like.
Yeah, he's terrifying.
You have 3 tries to figure it out, and have a chance to try to ask Mitch for help, which,
maybe the
if
girl's
successful,
birthday is
you get more
misleading.
clues. If you don't get it right, and you don't have the lucky star, you lose the money.
But we still need to find out the guy's name and what he looks like.
And where he will attack. You're not as intelligent as you look, kid.
Now get out of here, kid, before we turn hostile.
However, if you do have a lucky star, you'll keep some of your money.
Won't give your money back if you do, right? I can't bear that face. Here's some of your cash.
If you are successful in guessing the date, they'll give you back all the money.
Now, you're a genius.
Deepest apologies I showed you the beast earlier. I don't know what I was thinking.
Here's your cash, kid. It's best to honor one's promises. Stan and Mitch rules.
Then you're able to leave.
The ladder near the TV. Just climb it. Now get.
Getting this encounter, I did actually fear them a little bit, but then I was like, okay, whatever. And then genuinely surprised that they gave me back the money. The investigation was also fun to do. It really makes you think. A handful of people said that they got this as their first encounter. Some found it odd with the amount of investigating they were doing, but others just love how goofy they were. Also, them shouting their names at the end was really funny.
Stan and Mitch!
Fourth encounter on the list is the Wild Boys. This was the encounter that I told you to imagine at the beginning of the video, but I'll be more specific if I can. You're driving along the road and see a man, that being Mitch, in the middle, making you stop the car. You turn to see Stan point his gun at you and telling Mitch to get in. When they do, they tell you to drive. As you are driving, they are arguing at who's at fault for the failed laundromat robbery.
Rob it. Humiliate it.
You think I don't know that, Stan? It's your fault, you know.
My fault? Oh, that's rich, Mitch.
You can try to calm things down or just beg that they leave you alone. Or just make comments saying how weird this whole situation is.
Maybe you should find another Robin partner.
Well, maybe I should. Like this kid.
They clearly aren't listening though, but they try to not talk about the laundromat robbery.
Hold on. Before we end the best Robin duo ever, let's take a deep breath.
Yeah, we shouldn't rush into this. This is big. I know. Let's put the radio on. It'll help us forget about the laundromat.
Good idea.
But then put on the radio where Selena talks about the laundromat robbery.
A laundromat robbery happened about an hour ago.
Ah, jeez.
So Stan declares that they won't be robbing partners anymore.
Well, I guess that's it. Stan and Mitch are breaking up.
And that they'll just test you to become Mitch's partner.
Sure, this is the right move, and I'll give the kid Mitch's ultimate bank robbing quiz.
Yeah.
Regardless if you want to or not, you are forced to, and you take the quiz.
You need to start thinking about your future, kid.
Failing the quiz just gets you kicked out by Stan.
Lost, kid. Grab the wheel, Mitch.
But to get the answers right, they deem to be worthy of being Mitch's robbing partner.
No, I've never even passed it. And it's my quiz.
Mitch decides he wants to keep robbing with Stan, and vice versa.
So I guess you and the kid are gonna partner up now, eh?
Stan, hold on.
Yes, Mitch?
Though, the kid and I's Robin compatibility is through the roof.
No doubt.
I cannot imagine Robin with anyone but you.
Nor I, Mitch. Nor I.
Come on, let's
So,
keep the car.
they kick you out of the car.
And ditch the kid.
Sounds good to me, Mitch.
Like I said, this was my first encounter with them, so I did not make the connection that these two dudes were the one chasing Jared in the previous encounters that I got. I was also very wary of stealing cars from then on, but getting the quiz was actually so jarring, it just made me laugh. The whole scenario was just so absurd. Many people agreed with me on this as well, though this may not be the best encounter to get, as they are immediately hostile to the player. Which, yeah, they had a bit of an attitude on them, like, damn.
Shut up and step on the gas.
Fifth encounter on the list is Thieves in the Temple. In this encounter, you're in one of the more populated areas of Petria, which is actually a nice sight to see. You see Stan and Mitch as they scope out the taxi company. Approaching them, they notice you and ask if you want to help them out.
Stan!
You there! Wanna be part of something big?
You can either agree to it, say no, or try to walk away. If you say no or try to walk away, Stan will point his gun at you, and then you guys go to the back, with his gun still pointing at you. If you had complied, he doesn't do this and he's actually casual about it.
We need to be real quiet. Really? Now shut your trap. Here comes Mitch.
After Mitch goes and sees the place, he comes back and tells you that it seemed clear. They tell you why they're there in the first place, and they tell you that you gotta go through the vent in order to help them out.
This might have some important information. There's a psycho after Sonia, and we need to protect her.
Yeah, sweet Sonia's in danger. Yeah, well, she's a national icon.
Kid, you going through the vents here. Cry me a river, kid.
Here's where they give you Mitch's lucky lockpick that helps you unlock other things in the world.
I've never had to actually use it. Now come here, little lady.
Crawling into the vent and into the small control room, there's a variety of things to look at. Sitting down at the desk, you can see Stan and Mitch from their cameras. Some hijinks ensue as they are trying to get to the back room to look for evidence on the killer.
You need to work on your patience.
Kid, can you see us on the camera?
Oh no! Something's beeping!
It's an alarm! Kid, stop the alarm!
Make it stop!
Pick it up, and that's cool.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
Hold on. Try 9999.
That's not it.
You haven't even tried it.
It's 9 4 times. No one has that password.
They finally get in, and at first you can't see what they're looking at. But when removing the tape off the camera, you can see that in the manager's office is papers, pictures, a map, and red lines, the works on the wall, showing that he's planning out where he's going to attack Sonia, which is at the mountain peak. Suddenly, some guy from a security agency comes in. He demands that you open the door to the manager's office. If you don't, Stan and Mitch figure out the location, and you have a timer to leave the room, which, if it passes, you get arrested. If you do, they don't figure it out and just leave. This is a fun and balanced encounter, combining them with being robbers and also going after the man in order to protect Sonia. I found that people found them more mildly threatening here if they got this encounter first, but they also recognized that these two would be a comedic duo. This was also the highest rated encounter to get, according to my sister's ranking video.
Stan!
You there! Wanna be part of something big?
Last encounter on the list is a V2 kill. In this encounter, you're picked up by Stan and Mitch, riding alongside of a cliff. They then ask you if you met a woman named Sonia Sanchez.
Hey kid! On your travels, have you met a woman named Sonia?
Which can change slightly if you have.
You'd know if you had. She's only the prettiest flower in all of Petria.
Sharp as a tack, too. What are the chances?
100 to 1? No, 1,000 to 1.
And what did you think of her? What do you mean you're not sure?
Looking like we picked up another weirdo, Stan.
Sure is, Mitch. Lots of weirdos would say the same.
Sure would.
Hey, watch it! That's Sonia you're talking about.
Yeah, watch it, little lady.
Of course she was nice.
Sonia, even in her celebrity, is still a highly sympathetic individual.
They then proceed to explain to you that she's endangered, and that they have a hunch on who it is, which the dialogue can change if they have other pieces of information that you've collected or not.
Our hunch is the psycho is a taxi driver. Our hunch is the psycho is a taxi driver. What we know is there's great plans to attack Sonia at the border.
And that this creep plans to do so on Election Day. It's certain!
Yeah, we do, and on a variety of subjects.
Side note, this applies to the other encounters that involve them collecting the evidence. Their dialogue will change if they have more clues. This is a nice attention to details. Anyway, Mitch makes a comment on how the sidecar is broken, but they both reassure you that you'll be fine.
Why the kid's in the sidecar? It being in the shape it is.
You've gone and scared the kid, Mitch.
Didn't I? Oh, shoot.
Mitch shows you how to lean into the turns.
Nope. Probably not.
Long as you lean into the turns.
Which is the indicator that you'll be needing this mechanic soon. Being all hyped up from moving the sidecar around, climb up behind Mitch and all three of you share a collective brain cell.
Go on then. What do you think, kid?
Yeah, what do you think?
Standing Mitch and the kid!
Suddenly, a taxi drives by, and thinking it's the guy after Sonia, they don't want to take the chance and go and give chase, which leads to a minigame of dodging cars to try to catch up to them. If you are unsuccessful and get hit one too many times, the sidecar falls off and you lose the guy, but still have a chance to get a description of him. However, Stan and Mitch will leave you on the road for you to walk by yourself.
Yeah, that's my recollection too. But it's your fault we didn't catch that cab.
I hate to admit it, little buddy, but Stan's right. I'm gonna have to cut you loose.
Yeah, but we'll stop this lunatic. I knew it.
If you are successful in the minigame, you catch up to him, and Mitch goes up to his car.
Show this driver the beast, Mitch.
With pleasure.
Here we go. This ought to be good. So, kid, did you get a look at the driver? That's my recollection too. Wait,
But then quickly comes back.
his hands on this creep. What the? Why is he coming back?
Oh, nice person. People like that don't deserve engine trouble.
They bicker a bit, but still either drive you a bit, or you can leave and walk on foot. This was an encounter that was actually one that most people got for them first, and I feel like this is a really fun encounter to get. They come across as nice, giving you a ride, but also very, very ridiculous and a bit dangerous, as they're having you ride a car that's not fixed on properly, and they have you climb behind Mitch. But honestly, I think this was my second or third encounter with them, and I felt pretty safe with them. Like, I knew these two weren't going to actively harm me. Then, this was the consensus for most people, recognizing that these two are silly, but protective. Especially since this one was heavily centered on going after Sonia's would-be killer.
A taxi driver, Stan!
Could be Sonia's would-be killer!
There's a lot more that I have to say about these encounters, but that will have to come a bit later in the video. Now that we got that done, I can move on to the second encounter, or more like the cutscene with these two. As I said before, it usually takes 6 teens to complete a playthrough of Road 96. And there is a linear timeline. You can see it more when you do Zoe's encounters, as hers take place over the course of the first 4 teens, with set encounters. With the 15, when you get to the area that makes you choose on how you want to cross the border, you come across Sonia's limo, as she's doing a report on the upcoming election. From what my sister has told me, who has had more hours on this game than me, so I trust her opinion, said that in order to see Stan and Mitch here, you have to either get one encounter with them, or get an encounter from them that correctly gets a piece of evidence about the would-be killer. You see Stan and Mitch wanting to go talk to her, but they are stopped by her bodyguard, Adam.
Don't be offended. We think her hair is great.
Look, Sonia's not seeing anyone right now, all right?
Hi, kid. This guy won't let us see Sonia. He thinks we're fans.
Aren't we, Stan?
We're more than that. We're her biggest fans.
Nice one, Stan.
Regardless of their efforts to go meet her, Adam does his job and tells them to leave. We see it go to a cutscene again as Sonia is sitting, talking to what I assume is her makeup artist. She reminisces and mourns the death of a girl.
Oh, are you
crying, Sonia? A girl died here in '86.
We then see Jared behind her, ready to shoot her. It's then revealed
This is for you, Lola.
Lola was her name. I tried. I tried to save her. But the rocks, they kept coming. It's just, sometimes I wish I had died. And she lived.
he goes to leave, but Stan and Mitch see him and go to stop him.
Behind the rocks. You see what I'm seeing?
Uh-huh.
Come on. Stop right there.
You again. Wait, where's the other one?
Mitch, the beast.
What the?
Woohoo! We got him, Mitch. We got the...
Sonia notices Stan and Mitch and is overjoyed to see them. Adam questions how she knows them.
Wait, you know these two S&M guys?
Know them? They're the big brothers!
Hi, Sonia.
Oh, hi, Sonia.
You two come here and give me a hug! Now!
Right away,
Yeah.
ma'am.
On our way.
They have a group hug.
It's so good to see you two! It's been too long!
I don't want to rain on your family reunion, but he's gone.
Not a problem. We'll be here on election day, if he comes back.
And she apologized for being distant with the two.
Damn. Oh, Mitch. Oh, I'm sorry I've been so distant. I hope you can forgive
And they forgive her.
Don't worry about it, Sonia.
Yeah, don't worry. We're a family.
Aw, you guys are the best. Now give me another hug.
Jared quietly makes his escape, deciding his focus on his revenge on one of the leaders of the brigades, Robert.
Time to cut the head off the snake.
I was shocked when I got to this part of the game. Every person that I've talked to about this plot twist, they could not have been more shocked. And nearly every person that did in my Google form explained how shocked they were. But it was revealed that suddenly made sense as to why Stan and Mitch were going after the man in the first place. And with such conviction as well. I'd argue that they're better at deducting clues about a conspiracy to attempted murder than they are at pulling off robberies. But honestly, there are more signs that show that they were related to Sonia. Mitch does have a similar voice accent to Sonia's natural accent.
Gonna get sick on the hog stand. I knows it.
You should have seen his face.
Stan isn't really southern sounding, however he has the same dialects that Sonia does, and they use the same phrases, such as numbnuts.
You heard Mitch. Turn the radio on, numbnuts.
A brigade, numbnuts.
If you're observant, Stan and Mitch have pink charms on their weapons,
Guess that's it.
which is Sonia's signature color. Stan has a charm that's a little shooting star, while Mitch has a charm that's a little microphone. I assume these are lucky charms, which is something that Sonia gives you in one of her missions, which increase your odds for certain choices, as well as them being related to the show business, such as a star and a microphone. So it's more connections to Sonia, since she's a star
Hello, Sonia
and
Sanchez here.
works with a microphone.
To the Sonia Show.
Something that I had noticed when redoing these missions, Sonia is featured in every one of their missions. Some of this could be brushed off as them getting info off of her, such as nobody's supposed to be here, thieves in the temple, and a V2 kill. But there are other missions that still have Sonia referenced in some way, and nothing's gonna stop us now. You see a gossip mag of Sonia Sanchez in the sidecar. In Some Like It Hot, the TV in the Super Supper is playing the Sonia Show. And in the Wild Boys, they tune in on the radio, which is conveniently playing the Sonia Show. There are also some magazines lying around the world of Petria that show Stan and Mitch on the cover, with Sonia on the cover as well. Of course, you could brush off the mag and nothing's gonna stop us now, as a way for them to try to gather info, as Mitch states.
Hey, what are you looking out down there? Mitch, Now I told you to toss that gas mag!
But it could help us learn the particulars of Sonia's situation. That murderous creep is hot on her heels.
The TV just being programmed to play only that show because that's all it seems that Petria likes to play. Like, they have nothing else playing ever on the TVs. And the radio just doing that for comedic effect, when they try to forget about the robbery. And the random magazines around the world just being civil magazines. But I really don't think that's the case. I think DigitArts would do this to indicate in a subtle way that there's a connection. After all, when you do the encounter for Jared where you pick him up, the radio is programmed to play a Sonia Show segment that tells you not to pick up hitchhikers.
And as a reminder, never stop to pick up hitchhikers, young or old. They could be dangerous.
I mean, come on. Also, there's an encounter for Sonia where you pick her up. Throughout the ride of ridiculous shenanigans, there's a moment where she sees two people on a motorcycle and gets quiet.
Reminds me of...
If you get this encounter before Stan and Mitch reunite, she says how she hasn't been kind to the ones that she loved.
I haven't been so kind to the ones I love lately.
If you get it after, she says how she saw her brothers recently and how it had been years since she's seen them.
Well, of my past. Saw my brothers recently. It'd been ages. Made me realize how much I missed spending time with them. I'm not gonna make that mistake again.
So, I think DigitArts would go out of their way to make these connections with these characters specifically. Overall, the twist is shocking, but not one of those plot twists that is there for the sake of shock value. It's such a heartwarming moment for all these characters at this moment, and for Stan and Mitch, they successfully completed their goal, tying up their character arcs nicely. But I feel like Stan and Mitch get overshadowed by the arcs that Sonia and Jared go through here. I haven't really talked about Sonia Sanchez or Jared, and I know if I did, this video would turn out a lot longer. But I'll try to be quick and thorough with my discussion about them so you can see what I mean. These two, I feel like, have the most elaborate storyline and character arcs and development throughout this game. They're both antagonistic towards the player, but in very different ways. Sonia is a reporter that has a lot of attitude and at best questionable morals, and at worst an enabler for the country to get even worse.
Hello. It's Petria's sweetheart, Sonia Sanchez. You little... Fine. Here.
She hates the Black Brigades, she hates Flores, and she hates teen crossers. All of which you pretty much are, depending on your choices.
How do you think they make me feel? They want to topple a system that's good to me. I don't like them at all. That's only what losers say, hun. Incredible! Sonia Sanchez riding with a brigade. I should have you arrested on the spot. But I won't, because of the state of my limo.
You go head-to-head with her on a bunch of things. She's a handful. But don't get me wrong, I love this character. She's absolutely funny, and her actress, Mirabelle Kirkman, has an amazing range for her voice that she uses for TV and for the player. Which, I feel like there's a lot of discussion here, as even Sonia points out how ridiculous it is for her to need a voice that doesn't have her accent.
Because on the news, I talk like this. When in reality, I talk like this. GNN thinks I sound smarter without the accent. BS if you ask me.
And there are moments in the encounters, specifically too, that greatly humanize her, as it shows how tragic she really is. Jared is basically the same case, though he doesn't have much feelings towards Flores supporters. He also don't know who that is.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
But he actively hates the brigades and teen crossers. And what's special about him is that he will actually shoot and kill the player. Like, you can die in one of his encounters.
I've made up my mind. Say, I want to die. Go on. Then let me help you with that. It's one of those good news, bad news situations. The good news is I fixed the flat.
That smell. You guys grilling in there? Oh, okay.
Lights out. Which cassette did you watch? One is very private to me.
I told you I didn't want to think about that. They did this to her. Sonya and the Black Brigade. Now she's gone, and she'll never return.
Sorry, but you're not gonna like what comes next.
The revenge goal that he has is greatly intriguing. He is filled with so much hate, not just towards Sonya and the brigades, but clearly to himself, especially in one encounter. Mikey Goodman's performance just absolutely sells that this man has so much torment going on in his mind. Also, if you recognize the name Mikey Goodman, he played in Disco Elysium as the ancient reptilian brain.
Only warm primordial blackness. Your conscious ferments in it. No larger than a single grain of malt. You don't have to do anything anymore. Ever.
Limbic system.
You wouldn't like it if I told you what was back there. Why'd you think you had to bludgeon yourself into oblivion?
Spinal cord, beautiful necktie, and horrific necktie. Basically, he's Harry Dubois.
Behold.
If I had a nickel for every time Mikey Goodman played an alcoholic, depressed man that carries a gun around, is very off-putting to the people that meet him, and is haunted by his past, specifically surrounding a person that is no longer in his life, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. So, when it gets to this point in the game as the 15, it's likely that you got enough encounters with Sonya where you don't like her, to say the least, and enough encounters where you see Jared as this man with so much disdain for the brigades and Sonya. So, when you see that Sonya has a much bigger heart than she lets on, as well as becoming a better person in some way, and that Jared does have the capability of letting go, Stan and Mitch being siblings to Sonya and reuniting feels like small potatoes in my eyes in comparison. It makes me wish that there was an emotional storyline with these two. So, you can imagine my utter disappointment when I learned that the cut content with Stan and Mitch that would have added a lot of more emotionality, as well as have a solid connections to Petria's politics. Something that I didn't mention when it came to Stan and Mitch, and had left out until now, was the fact that these two were originally planned to be a couple. I had learned this from my sister, who walked in on me when I had first gotten the Wild Boys encounter. That encounter specifically had references to their costumes that Sonya described that they looked like they were into S&M role-playing.
Witnesses say the 2 robbers, both dressed like they were into S&M role-playing, argued the entire time.
If you don't know what that is, I'm not sure what to tell you besides it's an adult joke. Not to mention the dialogue that they had felt a lot like they were going through a breakup, and you were stuck in the middle with it.
We're laughing stocks.
And Sonya reporting it, no less. Oh, jeez.
Well, I guess that's it. Stan and Mitch are breaking up.
My sister clarified to me that they were indeed brothers and that it seemed like cut content, but they just forgot to change the dialogue for this. Actually, after my sister posted a ranking video, a dev clarified that, at the time of recording their lines for this, they were said to be brothers, but this was the first map ever of them. Which also explains why their voices just sound slightly different.
You sure this place is closed, Stan?
All the lights are on. Yeah, just leave those on to scare criminals.
Well, didn't work.
Nope.
Stan!
You there! Want to be part of something big? A break-in. Probably the best ever.
Best ever? You say that before all our crimes.
And every time, it's true. Not starting outside the laundromat after we rob it. Humiliating.
You think I don't know that, Stan? It's your fault, you know.
My fault? Oh, that's rich, Mitch.
Hot take, I like their voices here a bit more. Especially Stan's. I kind of wish they kept this tone for their voices, but I still love the voices that we got anyway. There is also a possible reference to them being a couple in the Some Like It Hot encounter, as it references the movie Pulp Fiction, where the couple, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, rob a diner, which is something my sister had pointed out in her video, so there's that couple connection again. Moving on, I was just mildly disappointed when I learned this info, because I'd really like queer rep, especially in a game that deals with as much politics as this. Not to say that queer stuff is political, honestly, I just want to like people in peace, but it's very clear in any country it's going to be a hot topic to be put on politics. So it would be interesting to see how this world handles it, but it was whatever. Until my sister had a watch party of the documentary of On the Road 96. Honestly, I think everyone should go and buy this and watch it because it's so interesting to learn about the development of this game and what they had to do in order to make this happen. At some point during the doc, they talked about the characters and how they had evolved. One thing that really caught my eye was this board that was briefly shown. Stan was going to be related to Sonia, that Stan and Mitch were a couple, and that Mitch was suffering from AIDS. And they further explained that the reason why Stan and Mitch were always robbing places was so that they could pay for his treatment.
Originally, they were a couple who robbed people to pay for the treatment of AIDS that one of them had. Something that could have been pretty common in the 90s. And as we went on, we figured they should be linked with Sonia, wondering if they might have started their lives in similar places, but they didn't work out the same way. One of them has been thrown into the spotlight while the other two are stuck in the background, but in the end they're still supporting each other, keeping in touch, but things might change.
This, of course, was later revised after other key story points were changed, but I have a lot of feelings on this, and it's taken me a while to sort them out. My initial feelings were on how much of a missed opportunity this was. Not only would you have a gay couple literally doing crime, but they would also have a main motive for robbing places. They aren't given a reason as to why they do it in the game. It's a mystery on that end. I mean, not that criminals really need a reason to do crime, but it would have given the two a new level of depth. I also think it would have connected more with this theory that I have about Stan and Mitch's designs, not so much about how they wear leather and spikes and how it's an adult joke, though I guess since HIV and AIDS is transmitted through adult acts, it does inherently connect with that design choice, but that's not what I mean. I mean how their mask resembles very closely to theater masks. You know, the smile and the frown. Those theater masks represent the comedy and tragedy masks, which are supposed to represent two of the 9 Greek muses, Thalia being the muse of comedy and Melpomene being the muse of tragedy. These masks that the goddesses wore became the symbol for theater and are associated with drama. Stan, wearing the muse of comedy, is often the one that is making the more wisecracks at the player.
We need to be real quiet. Really? Now shut your trap. Here comes Mitch.
While Mitch, wearing the muse of tragedy, is suffering from a disease that was basically a death sentence at the time due to the lack of attention, resources, and the stigma that came with having AIDS. It's not confirmed that this was a design choice, at least to my knowledge, but I do like this design theory. Not only that, but this concept would have been topical during the time period. The HIV/AIDS epidemic ranged from the 80s and 90s. If you don't know, this was a disease that could have affected anybody through unprotected intercourse. However, this was promoted as a disease that would only affect gay people, as the first few cases involved gay men. The media was reluctant at first to talk about this outbreak, and it was even dubbed as GRID, or otherwise known as Gay-Related Immune Disorder. It led to the gay community being ostracized and dismissed, and led to a high death toll. By 1995, it was determined that 1 in 9 gay men was diagnosed with AIDS, 1 in 15 had died, and that 10% of the 1,600,000 men ages between 25 through 44 who identified as gay died. Politicians such as Ronald Reagan did nothing to address AIDS or the rampant homophobia that occurred. It was often that gay men would not have any visits from their family members while they were in the hospital. There was actually a woman named Ruth Coker Burks who would sit with young gay men that were dying of AIDS because of the fact that their family members wouldn't come, and that their rooms were deemed as biohazard because of the gay cancer. It was safe to say that a generation of queer people were lost, and not even queer people, as there was plenty of other people that were straight that had it, but due to the carelessness of the medical and political field, died too. We can already see in the world of Road 96 that the current government's way of handling things is
Oh, shut up. Stop! Help me! Oh no, we definitely don't do stories like that.
In a holding cell near the border. They brought you in last night. They beat you. That's why. But it should come back soon. A guy called the cops on me at a gas station. There was another teen there. Must have been arrested too, but taken in a different car. Too long. I just want to get it over with. Getting transferred to the pits. Well, you know, that's where crosses end up, isn't it?
not very good, with its extensive oil pumps that are draining the world around them, pretty much mirroring how we are constantly depleting the world's resources faster than it can produce. There's evidence to suggest voter fraud that works in favor of Tyrak. Like, look at the percentage for some of these cases.
Shit's not adding up. I'm not a mathematician, but it's not adding up, everybody.
The police are all corrupted as hell in favoring Tyrak instead of being for the people, often being Flores supporters and teens. The fact that it's impossible to cross the border, with the only legal way being an offshore worker exam, and even then that's exploited. And those who try to cross the border aren't even just sent back home to their parents, they are sent to work camps where they are worked to death or experimented on. I can only imagine how Petria would treat queer people. Creating the Google form, I explained how in early drafts, Stan and Mitch were supposed to be a couple, with Mitch having AIDS and then robbing places in order to pay for his treatment, and asked if this was something that they should have kept. And I was shocked that many people had said no, but it wasn't just a cut and dry answer. I had a section where they explained why they chose that answer. And honestly, there were some very great pointers. One of the more common themes was that people had talked about how the story that we got worked better in terms of being related to Sonya and working to protect her, which, on my bad, I didn't include how Stan would have been related to Sonya still, but I also wasn't sure of this at the time, so I didn't want to put anything accidentally false. That, and there's still a chance that their motives weren't the same, even including the AIDS plotline. There was also a common answer that had explained that there was a very likely chance that the gay representation, as well as the handling of the AIDS topic, wouldn't have been done properly. Some also mentioned that since AIDS is a very serious issue, it possibly would have been too tragic to include, especially with how fun these characters are. Someone also pointed out how this would have been just another bickering couple, which I didn't even think about that. That's so true though. I hate the bickering couple trope with a passion, bickering siblings, it's so much funnier.
I did not. Besides, I didn't see you get off the bike. You was scared.
I was not scared.
One user that submitted a response basically summarized these other small points and short responses in a fantastic way. I'm not entirely against the idea, but I lean towards no. While I love queer representation, the addition of AIDS would have come with some challenges in the storytelling that would have been risky. These are very sensitive topics, and if DigitArts did a bad job in this representation, it could have dragged down the entire story overall. If they did a good job, then I'm not sure how much this would add to the story. If we keep the same overall idea of Stan and Mitch trying to protect Sonya. There is more to this answer, which I feel like summarizes a good amount of people wishing that this was included. Like how some people would have loved to have seen this topic dealt with, especially in regards to how Petria would handle this kind of thing. Not to mention, some people felt like this would have given them depth. Finishing off this one user's comment, on the other hand, I think this would have been really fun to make them a couple instead. This could be an interesting dynamic where Stan is related to Sonya, but not Mitch, and Mitch is supporting of his brother. This would add some more extra reason as to why Stan is more in your face and demanding, while Mitch seems to more go with the flow instead of active in his pursuit to stop the killer. At the end of the day, whether I support this idea or not depends on how they would have actually implemented this idea in the greater picture rather than the idea itself being a yes or no. I never watched the documentary, so they may add more information that I am missing. Which, well, user, if you're watching this and you didn't watch the doc, somehow you were on the nose about Stan being related to Sonya and the concepts. I think that overall, I agree with this point, and as well as some of the other points made. The AIDS topic is a serious matter to discuss. Hell, I'm worried that I really didn't get all right with my brief explanation of it, and even though I'm queer and I also did my research for a good measure, I do think in the end that given the time frame DigitArts had in making this game, the fact that they went bankrupt for a while, then got aid with Omen and then had a short amount of time to get the game up and running, and how it feels very much apparent that aspects were rushed, especially when playing as the 16. Like, that whole ending cutscene bit really felt so, like, fast-paced from the rest. I think that it was a wise move that this idea was cut out. Or rather, at least the concept of Mitch suffering from AIDS wasn't canonized in this game. Not to say that it's canon in other installments, to my knowledge it isn't. However, DigitArts made use of their other installments to expand upon the politics of Road 96 to make it more fleshed out. Mile Zero showcased how certain cities are more funded than others, favoring the upper class more than the lower middle class. And as a result, the lower class cities can have an impact on people's health. Kaito's girlfriend died from a cancer at a young age, due to the pollution of Colton City, and Kaito feels like the government does nothing about it, and tries to brush it off or even laugh in his face. This mirrors the AIDS epidemic in that regard, though that's not to say other diseases get pushed off by the government as if it was nothing, like take COVID in the US for example. So it seems like that if DigitArts had enough time, they could have done the AIDS crisis well. I do have a theory that they were very close to implementing it in the main game, though it's not totally strong, but I'll still share it anyway. And nothing's gonna stop us now. Stan first asks Mitch to check the bag in the sidecar.
Mitch, check the bag.
To which Mitch says,
"What if I could, Stan? Now you know I have issues with the lower lumbar."
To which Stan acknowledges this and gets you to do it. One of the signs that showcases HIV is having lower back problems, which, again, in the context of systems, is a massive stretch. Back pain is a common sign for multiple things. However, considering the described AIDS plotline and with how oddly specific this detail is, I can't help but wonder. I also have this theory, or more like headcanon, that Mitch has poor eyesight, which can be a sign of HIV or AIDS as well. My evidence is that he doesn't drive the motorcycle, and when he does, he's really bad at it. He has a close-range weapon, unlike Stan, who could objectively shoot far away. He forgot the bag for the robbery, possibly due to not seeing it. He doesn't rush his break-in and entering, maybe due to how he needs to see the locks that he's breaking in. While Mitch pointed out the animal on the road, Stan still ran over it. Stan has no excuse for not seeing it unless it was small, which it likely was. which could relate to how Mitch didn't see it until it was too late. When Stan points out Jared by the rocks, it looks like it takes a minute for him to see what he's talking about. And Mitch often squints for no reason, which is something I do when my eyes get tired from trying to see and I don't have my glasses. Stan will squint, but I feel like he does that more when he's angry or shouting. There's really no reason for Mitch to be squinting, especially when he's close by and staring at you. But again, that's really more speculation than anything. I honestly take more stock in the fact that lower lumbar pain is a sign of AIDS, because at least that's specifically referenced. That or Mitch has lumbago.
It's a slow and painful death, my brother.
Evidently.
Have a little pity, will you?
After thinking about this plotline for a bit, I'm proposing a common ground solution. Stan and Mitch are brothers, but Mitch is still suffering from AIDS, and so they have to go and rob places for his treatment. That way, there's still this comedic value of them being brothers and having that connection to Sonya, while also using this as an opportunity to showcase more of Petria's poor handling on the public health. They honestly wouldn't even have to confirm if Mitch was gay or not. It could just be somebody that has AIDS. I mean, there are plenty of statistics that I mentioned of straight identifying people that were affected by AIDS, though it would be more impactful if he was gay, because of what I talked about earlier about how fan members would abandon their queer relatives during this time. And Stan being the one to stick by his side would be a very sweet and touching detail. If they happen to do more with Road 96, I hope that they do this, but I completely get it if they don't. I guess my whole point for this segment was to cover the supplemental material that was lost in development. Material that I think we can at least agree would have added a new kind of depth to them, both in that emotional sense and the political sense. But since we don't have that, we just have the material that is given to us to look at, and there is a lot to cover. Everybody, show me your knees. I mean, everybody on your knees. Show me your hands. I mean, god damn it, this is a robbery. This is the first line spoken by Stan in the Road 96 prologue book, at least the same time as Road 96. It's one of those books where you choose your own adventure. You play as a character named Lou, a woman that plays a key feature in regards to the attack in 86, which is an event that is mentioned throughout Road 96, which is an attack that is led by the brigades that caused the mountain peak to collapse. But there's more than that meets the eye, which your character comes to realize, as well as learning about the other characters that are in Road 96, and some not really shown or mentioned in the game. It takes place over the course of 2 days, before the inauguration day of the wall, the day of, and with a small aftermath at the end of the book. One of the first events to take place in the book is your character making the decision to rob a video store. As a moral and upstanding citizen here. If you decide to do so, as you're beginning to make your way for your first robbery ever, two people decide that they're also going to do the same thing as their first robbery ever. Those two being Stan and Mitch. They aren't in their iconic outfits yet, just wearing masks, but they do have their weapons on their persons. And based on what Stan said, they're really not that good. You can do a variety of things, such as accept that they're going to rob the store, or try to stop them with your toy gun. Letting them rob the place, they just go on their merry way. Pointing your gun at them startles Stan at first, completely forgetting the fact that he has a shotgun. Mitch notices that your gun is fake. You can choose to let them leave, or push further. When pushing further, it's revealed that they walked here. They didn't have a ride. Meaning they didn't have their iconic motorcycle either. Offering them a deal, you give them a ride and get a third of their cut. They can't steal your car, they only know how to drive an automatic, while yours is a manual. So they agree and give you a mask, saying that you're a part of the team now. They were saving it for their sister, but she didn't want to come. The route that you can take with them is either north or south. To keep it very brief, some lead to your death and some don't. If you listen to the radio, a news report states that you and them are traveling south, regardless if you are or not. If you don't get a bad end, the car will come to a stop in some way, and Stan and Mitch will see the motorcycle that they are destined to have. Despite saying that they would split the money with you, they steal the motorcycle and leave. You can chase after them, which Stan actually shoots at you if you do, which results in a car crash, but you survive. There's also a route where you don't see them get the motorcycle and they leave you on foot after you crash your car. After some other series of unfortunate events that I don't need to go into detail really. You're tasked with getting an oil truck that is going to be used to run over Tyrak at the inauguration. Yes, this is a lot to process, but please bear with me. In your travels, you come across a young girl, an 8-year-old Zoe Moeller. You make it a mission to also find her dad, who is going to be at the wall too. As you're traveling in the trunk with Zoe, you get stopped by men, and just when it seems like you're going to be stuck in a bind, 2 familiar faces show up. Everyone drop your hands! Hands on your guns! I mean, everyone drop your guns and... I think they got it, Stan. Just... may God help that poor bastard that gets hit on by Stan. If you went with them during the robbery and had the mask, they recognize you, and take note that you have a kid, which they find adorable. They plan on robbing the tank, but show signs of hesitancy because of Zoe. They have established a rule to not rob kids. They claim they've done 7 other robberies, which includes the one against the dudes that have cornered you, as they don't want to rob you now. They are brimming with confidence, but before you can witness them robbing the guy, Stan allows you and Zoe to leave on foot. If you hadn't known them, a shootout begins to happen with the tank being shot at. Stan and Mitch still allow the 2 of you to leave. Now, this is a lot to take in, and this is just only concerning with Stan and Mitch. There are plenty of other characters from Road 96 that make their appearance here, and the contrast is stark. I'm pretty sure some of the characterization came from the characterizations that were talked about in the Road 96 documentary, but never finalized for the game, due to how some of the characters act. But I'm also not 100% sure on this, so the other likely option is that this book is set 10 years in the past, in 1986. Of course, they're going to act differently. Before I get into what we learned from this, I want to cover Mile Zero and About a Girl. Road 96 Mile Zero is the second installment to the Road 96 franchise, releasing on April 4th, 2023. It's considered to be a narrative adventure game that has a musical component that mirrors one of Digital Arts' first games, Lost in Harmony, which has a character from that game that plays a role. It serves as a prequel that focuses on Zoe in 1996 before she leaves home, and is much shorter than Road 96. She and her friend Kaito are the main focus, meaning that any past characters we see are only really small appearances, some playing a larger role than others. Stan and Mitch honestly don't make an appearance. There's only like 5 references to them. It was confirmed by Matthew Vanston on the official Discord server that due to scheduling conflicts, he couldn't commit to the time to voice Stan. This really makes me curious as to what they were going to do, but to be fair, only Sonia, Alex, John, and Adam play a significant part in the plot. Fanny and Jared are just barely there, so it's likely that Stan and Mitch wouldn't have gotten a strong part in it. Still, I was robbed. And not by Stan and Mitch this time, technically. Despite there only being 5 references to them, 4 of them show that they still are robbing places just as they were 10 years ago. But now they don their iconic outfits. There is, however, one key reference that I will briefly touch on. As stated, this game is about Zoe and Kaito. You switch between both. Playing as Kaito, when looking through Sonia's mailbox because she lives right next to Zoe, Kaito finds a letter that reads, "Sweet Sonia, we robbed a bakery and stole your fave cake. Wanted to mail it to you, but it did not fit the mailbox. Alas, we ate it. Our heart's heavy. We don't got a phone, but the nearest phone booth number is 678. Please give us a ring, as we are so lonely. Your biggest fans, S&M." Now, I know what you're thinking. Alas? Look, just because they're criminals, that does not reflect their intelligence. I know this. However, I literally never would have even think they would use a word like that. This is like when I need to fill in the word count and also sound smart when I'm doing it, so I use the word like thus. Also, why are they writing like this is a Shakespeare monologue? Which one of them physically wrote this? Was it a group effort? Okay. Actually, I know what you're thinking. No, there's no way to call them. Believe me, I tried for maybe an hour total, looking in each section of the map to find a working phone to call them. You can't. The only phone that's used in the game is at the end, as a plot point, and even then, you can't go and make a call quickly. Never have I ever been more upset. Digital Arts can't keep getting away with this. Well, actually, maybe they were going to have you call them, but because Matthew couldn't come in, they just couldn't do it. Okay. On to what you may actually be thinking. I'm not going to address it yet. I gotta talk about a couple other things first. like About a Girl, which I'm going to talk about right now. About a Girl was released the same day as Mile Zero. Much like the prologue book, it's a choose-your-own-adventure storybook, with the main character being Zoe. It takes place right after Mile Zero and is taking place concurrently with Road 96, but stops at a certain point in the game. As Zoe is making her way, traveling across Petria, she hitchhikes and is picked up by Stan and Mitch, or nearly run over is the more correct term. Mitch was driving and apparently he can't drive that thing for shit. She notes how strange their outfits are, and if you choose to be observant, she can see the gun Stan has and some bank papers that they just stole. If she asks where they're going, they mention how they're going to a Tyrak donor party as guests because their sister is VIP, but they don't say her name. Zoe doesn't believe them and demands to know more, but they become immediately suspicious, thinking she's working with a man that they also don't describe. Next thing Zoe knows, she is held at gunpoint. Don't worry, this happens anyway, even if she didn't ask and instead blew a trombone. Wow, Stan is such a nice guy. For some reason, it quickly turns into a philosophical debate. Stan asks Zoe her opinion on something. Do you think that stealing from a thief is a good or bad thing? If Zoe answers that it's a bad thing, they are ecstatic to hear this news. They want to be perceived as the bad boys. However, if Zoe says that no, sometimes it's actually justice to steal from someone who's getting rich off your back, they're shocked by this answer, which I'm assuming Stan asked the next question since he's more talkative than Mitch. So, gets okay to kill her too. Before any elaboration can come about, they see a super supper and they drop her off and go rob it. We don't see them again until way later on in Zoe's story. She arranges a meeting with her father, the Minister of Oil, someone close to Tyrak's political circle that just controls the oil of Petria, at a coffee shop to finally get some questions answered on Petria, and he wants file that she had gone from Tyrak's home. During their conversation, it goes south very quickly, with him demanding that file and her being cornered. However, before anything else can occur, Stan and Mitch show up to go rob the place. This leads to a shootout as the minister has other men with him that have guns. But Zoe manages to get out with the file and leave. I did not realize until writing this, there's parallels to what happens in here and which happens in the prologue book. The main character being cornered, and then Stan and Mitch coincidentally arriving at the nick of time to help them out.
Symmetry, my friend.
Short encounters from them again. Not revealing too much, probably because the arts would assume that you already know these two, but would also want to play it safe and not revealing anything big about them. Also, a major thing that I need to point out because I'm going utterly insane at this detail. As I was rereading these sections in January, as it had been pretty much a year since I read it, they updated a section of theirs. As you can see with the image I put on screen, the first pic was taken in April, and it shows that they had a description, albeit a very non-descriptive description of their face. They were the same looking, and they had flowing hair. But, as I read it in January, they removed the description, making them wear their mask the whole time. Why? Why would they do this to me? Okay, I'm assuming they updated to keep it as ambiguous as possible. Come on, dude, I felt like I was making that up in my mind. I was going crazy trying to find that section where they said they have flowing hair and the same features. And it only took me just going back through old messages to see that they were there. But I felt crazy for 30 minutes trying to find the information. It was there 1 minute and then it wasn't there the next minute. I guess their description isn't exactly canonical and definitive anymore. However, I'm going to assume that these descriptions are still somewhat accurate, as Stan and Mitch are of the same height and build, so it could be reasonable that they are closer in their face, maybe even twins. At least that's what Stan's voice actor, Matthew, theorizes. Okay, I have to move on now. If I think about it too much, then I will get upset. Now that we have this elemental material in mind, I want to take a look back on the timeline of Road 96, which will involve both analyzing and theorizing. Sometime during the summer of 1996, Stan and Mitch are not only robbing places, but are in hot pursuit of Jared. We're never given any indication on how or when they became aware of his stalking, or even how they became aware of his plans to kill Sonia. Though, I think maybe a reasonable explanation is that since they're always actively watching the Sonya show, and possibly her live coverage of places, it's likely that Jared would have shown up in the background multiple times. Probably just standing around, like he does in some of Sonya's encounters that you can see.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
It's also probable that Sonya talked about the death threats that she receives, especially the ones that have been going strong for 10 years.
I've been getting letters for 10 years, Snookums. Yet here I still am.
Hell, I could see her doing a section on her show where she reviews her death threats and tries to pin them on Black Brigades. Or maybe Adam, her bodyguard and driver, would be interviewed by tabloids and he could have briefly mentioned this. You can see there's a magazine that had a cover that speculates their relationship, so maybe he talked about that in one of those. I mentioned how A View to a Kill was an encounter that most people got, and in that one they state that they have a hunch that the person chasing after Sonya is a taxi driver.
Our hunch is the psycho is a taxi driver. No, but like we're saying, this taxi driver is a psycho.
Taxi driver? That would make sense.
They always state this.
Our hunch is the psycho is a taxi driver. What we know is this creep plans to attack Sonya at the border.
And that this creep plans to do so on election day. It's certain.
Yeah, we do. And on a variety of subjects.
Taxi driver? That would make sense.
And if you had previous encounters with them that helped gather more evidence, it's likely that they got this piece of info first and were running with it. And they make it their mission to get after this man. So we got a couple theories on how they came to learn about this stalker. Now moving on to how they came about how they know about his plans to actually kill her. Relating to one theory that I have, she could have mentioned the death threats on the show, and they just made the bold assumption that the death threats and the stalker were one and the same. There's also a clip that can play if Jared kills a teen. Sonya reports it and he can call to tell her very little details and then threaten her.
Big news, viewers. I've located a source who saw the missing teen I discussed in a previous episode. Let's call him now. Hello, you're on the air. May I ask what your name is?
You can call me Gerald.
Hello, Gerald. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, Gerald, you saw the missing teen?
Yeah, I gave the kid a ride.
Well, tell us more. Looks like the cat's got your tongue.
I did want to say something else. Something to you, Sonya.
What is it?
I'm coming for you.
Okay then, live TV folks.
Maybe this has happened on more occasions, and so in watching the show one night, they see that, then go full on attack mode. I do have a different theory, which relates to the corp board that they have in their hideout. In my poll, the Nobody's Supposed to Be Here encounter was the second, tied with Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, lowest encounter to get first. Though, I know it's not impossible to get first. This was one that I got first when starting New Game Plus, or even just a new game. And this corkboard can get updated with info that you learn in other encounters.
So we're trying to find out when the killer's gonna attack. We know what he looks like.
Yeah, he's terrifying.
It's not like this corkboard is only made when you learn new info. So my theory is that they had this corkboard before the events of the game, with evidence that they collected about Jared's plans, without coming into direct contact with Jared, and after learning about his stalking, they begin to pursue him. There's a lot more that I have to say about this corkboard, but I'll get to that in a bit. They go and still do the robberies, such as robbing a super supper and robbing a bank off screen, and gather clues about this guy, which involves them determining when he's going to attack at their hideout, when he's going to attack at the Haxi Tappy location, and chasing after him to get a glimpse at what he looks like. Which, side tangent, because I really didn't know where else to put this, but I so desperately want to talk about it. In regards to A View to a Kill, I have my suspicions that the entire chase sequence is a reference to Lupin III, the Castle Cagliostro. A quick summary if you don't know. Lupin III is an anime character created by Monkey Punch in 1967 that is the grandchild based off of the novel character Arsène Lupin. From 1967 to the present, he has had a wide variety of adaptations of him in parts, manga, and movies. One of the more influential movies was the Castle Cagliostro movie in 1979, one of the first movies, if not the very first movie. Made by Hayao Miyazaki. Yes, you heard that right. It was right before the founding of Studio Ghibli. This movie has had a major impact with various directors and filmmakers, like Steven Spielberg, saying it was one of the greatest movies of all time. It also influenced a lot of the Disney and Pixar films, like The Great Mouse Detective, Atlantis: Lost Empire, and Luca, with them taking a lot of inspiration from various scenes. It was also an inspiration for John Lasseter, who helped translate a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies, and this was his first film that he watched from Hayao Miyazaki. Also, there's a lot of overall Lupin III references in The Bad Guys. One of the more common reference scenes in the Castle Cagliostro is the car chase scene at the beginning of the movie, which, damn it, I tried to find the video on YouTube that showcases these references, but it must have been taken down, so you just gotta trust me on this, bro. Lupin and his partner in crime, Jigen, chase after a group of people that are going after a young woman in their car. They're riding on a cliffside throughout most of it. Going back to A View to a Kill, this mission always takes place on the cliffside. It involves a high-speed chase with two known thieves against a guy that's after a girl. And there's also a yellow car. And in the documentary, you can see how in one of Alex's missions, they purposely put that there would be a shot of Alex standing in the rain that's supposed to be a direct reference to the Studio Ghibli movie My Neighbor Totoro. I'd also just noticed on the wiki for Road 96 that one of the inspirations for the game is Porco Rosso, another Studio Ghibli movie, though I can't find the quote. But I did decide to watch Porco Rosso, and I think there's merit to it being one of the many inspirations for Road 96, as Porco Rosso has themes of fascism, war politics, and references to being loyal to the government. Though, to be honest, what Studio Ghibli movie doesn't have some reference to anti-war messages? But there's other specific references that tie more strongly to Road 96, like how the main concept of Porco Rosso is the abundance of sea pirates, which in the movie are separate gang members that just rob from the rich ships in the area, but they can also have battles with one another, depending on the circumstances. John in one mission mentions road pirates, and how they're trying to get a hold of his pineapples.
Road pilots, young blood. Get in the back. You know how to handle a nail gun? These low-life sticks are gonna get my pineapples. Ha!
The main character, Porco, has similar ties to John, being that they're wanted by the government and go by a different code name, referencing an animal.
Papa Bear, you think of a time and place?
And are tied to means of transportation that is easily identifiable with their characters. They both also get connections with a young and inspiring inventor, Theo being a 17-year-old airplane mechanic that helps Porco with his plane, and Alex being a 14-year-old tech wizard that helps John with the brigades. It's a very good movie. Anyway, on to the main point of this off-topic segment. Studio Ghibli seems to be a reference in a lot of Road 96, so I have grounds to believe that Lupin III is referenced here. I know most of you probably don't know or even care about Lupin III, but I really just want to talk about it.
Really? Now shut your trap.
Okay, getting back to the actual video now. Depending on your team, they could be successful in stopping this guy and being reunited with Sonia, or they don't get to the hill, but it doesn't result in her death. Jared still comes to the conclusion to not kill her.
I tried to save her. But the rocks, they kept coming. It's just, sometimes I wish I had died. And she'd lived.
Oh, Sonia.
Saw my brothers recently. It'd been ages. I haven't been so kind to the ones I love lately.
I'm assuming Digital Arts wanted to make an ending where she dies, but they just didn't have the time, which that would have been interesting to see if they could have done that. On Election Day, if they are reunited, you can see them watching over Sonia as she's giving her report on the wall and protests that are going on. when the end credits begin to roll, you get a variety of pictures of the characters and how their life went after the election. Depending on who becomes president, the pictures with Sonya and Stan and Mitch are different. One pic that comes from Lupe Flores being president ending has them hanging out at the beach, while the other one that comes from Tyrak being president has Sonya in the sidecar of their motorbike, seemingly having done a robbery with them. Writing out their timeline in bits and pieces and reviewing the material that's given about them and looking back at the encounters, there's a lot of observations that I made. Observations that are really to the point of this video. How these two are more competent, more political, and just as tragic as the other characters than I think most players realize. The first thing that I want to discuss is their level of competence. From first impressions, I think people think that they don't have a lot of it. So many people, when talking about their first impressions of Stan and Mitch in the dock, mainly call them idiots, and other similar names of that variety. People loved them and only barely saw them as a threat, depending on the encounter they got. When people got their last encounters with them, usually it was after it was revealed that Sonya was their sister and showed their motives. People generally felt at ease around them. They liked them and still found them as silly robbers. But when you thoroughly examine the encounters like I have, it's clear that these two have a great amount of competence. Exhibit A of their competence. In Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, they talk about how they managed to rob the first Petria National Bank.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
We did it, Mitch. We robbed the big one, First Petria National. That's mighty kind of you to say, kid.
Hey, little lady, you've heard of Stan and Mitch, right?
I knew it, Mitch. We're famous.
Woohoo!
They claim that it was the big one, so I'm assuming it was actually one of those first banks created in Petria, probably like the first bank of the United States. Only, unlike the actual first bank of the United States, where it just serves as a historic building, it's actually a functional bank, with how much money they have in the trunk and the endless amount that you throw at the cop. Of course, it's clearly just a game mechanic to have quote-unquote infinite ammo, but looking at it from universe setting, it really looks like they robbed a lot. And even if it was just a regular bank like a Chase Bank, they still robbed a lot of money from it. And with how rampant the police is in Petria, that probably wasn't an easy feat. So they really can bring home the bacon if they actually tried and put their mind to it. You probably just caught them on a bad day with Some Like It Hot. But even then, they still managed to rob the place and get away. And regardless of how ridiculous the laundromat robbery is, they still get money from it. You can also see in their hideout they have bags of money on the floor from previous robberies. It's clear that they're good at their job. I mean, as established in the prologue book, they've been robbing places for 10 years. There was a clear improvement with how they handled themselves back then versus now.
Oh no!
This here, ladies and gents, is what you'd call a robbery.
Woohoo!
Nobody move!
And 10 years going strong, these two are still robbing places. It's canon that these two went to jail based on a line in Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now and in Thieves in the Temple.
Dang nabbit! We're being busted!
I can't go back, Stan! I can't!
What do we do, Stan? I don't know, but I can't go back to prison.
But they still managed to get out. They use their first names as their trademark for crying out loud. Sure, these two don't always have the best looks when robbing places, but they're still robbing places. And I'm not only going over their competence in the robberies, they have a lot of competence in their goal to catch the would-be killer. Exhibit B in their competence. In the encounter, Nobody's Supposed to Be Here, for added context, it's better to see my sister's video, which, if you haven't, I don't know what you're doing here. I've mentioned it multiple times by now. You should have watched it. This is not me asking or request. I'm telling you to. She brings up two responses that talk about why this was their favorite encounter. One, a short and simple one, and one long one. I was the long one. I went into detail on how this was my favorite encounter because it truly shows their level of competence that really can't be underestimated once I had put thought into it. I ended up viewing them differently. And it's also what motivated me to make this video. The amount of evidence that they have on them and the different types of clues and evidence that they get is very crazy to think about. This corkboard has an audio recording that Jared made himself.
Today marks the anniversary of Lola's death. In exactly 2 years, I will take my revenge.
Do we know when that was recorded, Stan?
Yeah, sometime in 1994.
There's personal letters that Jared wrote to himself after Lola's death.
He says he's gonna act on his kid's birthday. If anything happens to sweet Sonia, I might just go crazy! That guy's seriously disturbed, Stan.
A letter that Lola wrote to him before the attack, which they found in his journal.
He had this letter in his journal. I guess his daughter was fond of reptilians.
They even have a photograph of Lola that has her birthday on it.
So, we know the girl's birthday.
All this stuff usually dates back to years. This begs the big question: when, where, and how the hell did they get all this? There's no explanation that we get, just that they have it. To put it in perspective, if you don't get it, in one of Jared's encounters, if you watch one of his tape that he has, which is the attack in 86, and it shows that Lola is dying, and you admit to him that you watched the tape.
Which cassette did you watch? One is very private to me.
I told you I didn't want to think about that. They did this to her. Sonia and the Black Brigade. Now she's gone, and she'll never return.
Sorry, but you're not gonna like what comes next.
In other encounters, if you even talk about Lola or the wall without his prompting so, he will get agitated.
Don't look at that. It's private.
There is no way on God's green earth that he wouldn't have noticed these letters, a photo, an audio clip of him going missing. And even if they were somehow copies that they made to take with them, it's still a mystery of the effing century on how they managed to do this, all the while not knowing what he looks like. And if you get the identity right in A View to a Kill, they have a picture of him on the corkboard. That means that they got a camera and got a good angle of him at some point. When I said that they're better at finding a man for conspiracy to attempted murder than they are at robbing places, this is what I meant by it. This whole encounter showcases how thorough and how dedicated they are to this goal. They really were locked in. Also, when I asked how they managed to do this, I kind of still want it to be a mystery. Like, I think it's more fun to speculate, though I don't really have any solid concrete theories yet as to how they got all this information. The next thing I'm going to discuss is their involvement in politics. Now, I know I went into detail on how they don't have a connection with Petria's politics, that they really don't have an opinion on the current structure. I never gave the definition of apolitical, but it directly means not interested or involved in politics. And I still think that they hold this image that they are apolitical. But after some time thinking, just because they want to be perceived as that, doesn't necessarily mean that there's no political undertones with them. I'm a firm believer that having no opinion on politics is an opinion on politics. Some people may not agree with this, but that's how I feel. And in regards to Stan and Mitch, I do think that they, or at least their characters, represent political positions or have hidden beliefs. To start with, it's very clear that they're anti-cop, which, that's a fork found in the kitchen moment, but I feel like it's often overlooked that an anti-cop stance is an inherently political opinion. It's so often in history that the police are often against political changes. Take, for example, the Stonewall riots, where a bunch of cops had tried to investigate the bar because there was a law in New York that prohibited the serving of alcohol to queer people, and they had gotten violent with the workers and even the attendees there, leading to the pushback from the LGBTQ community, and also the Black Lives Matter movement, where in 2020, George Floyd was murdered by a cop, and it really was just one of the many cases of cops being racist towards minorities, especially the African American population. Don't even get me started on the January 6th and how cops let people riot the White House. And this is all stuff based in the US, right? Like, I'm so certain if cops suck here, then they can suck anywhere. As a US citizen, Petria's police seem to mirror the US police more. There are a few moments in Road 96 universe where Stan and Mitch take the position of anti-cop, or are critical of them. At any point when you talk about how there's a lot of cops in Petria, you can make the comment on either you hoping that there would be less cops or that the cops should be gone in general. They very much agree with this point.
Ask us a question if you'd like. Could take your mind off your fear. Sure is. That's why Mitch and I don't venture yonder.
Don't venture yonder.
Oh, absolutely. Mitch and I talk about this all the time.
But, before you go, maybe you want to ask us something?
Sure is. That's why Mitch and I don't venture yonder.
Don't venture yonder.
Whoa, hold on. That's a great idea!
Yeah, sure, they are robbers, they want money, and they want to get it without any hiccups. This would be an expected response by them. But there's another instance in the game where I feel like they have much deeper thoughts about the cops. And nothing's gonna stop us now. If you are successful in getting the cop hit with enough money, they will say this.
Time to get rich! They stopped for the money!
Dare I ask who the criminals are now?
Sure, it could be seen as just a jab at the cop that was chasing them, but this line, I feel like speaks volumes. They have to see that the cops in Petria are corrupted in many ways, and not just people who want to abide by the law or protect the public's interests. And it was this line that made me realize something about the cops in general in Petria. I've seen more cops go after the teens that you're playing as, rather than Stan and Mitch. Fanny's encounters are technically cop encounters in my eyes, with you being arrested or being able to arrested in at least 3 encounters. Zoe encounters results in the police going after you and her in at least 3 encounters. Jared threatens you that cops would be looking for you in 1 encounter. Cops show up at the bar that John is at in 1 encounter. Sonia threatens the cops to be called on you sometimes. Even Alex, well, he technically still talks to his mom, who's a cop. You aid him in helping identify the robbers that are robbing the bank, which are Stan and Mitch. From what we can see with Stan and Mitch, the cops are only in 2 of the encounters, with having a chance to arrest you at the end. The cops in Petria are way more concerned with catching teens wanting a better life than 2 active criminals. Criminals that are able to leave the cop car if you get stopped by the police. Criminals that are able to just hightail it away from the scene. This would also include Jared as well. There's only 1 encounter with him being investigated by a cop, according to the Sonia show.
Authorities made a gruesome discovery in a motel earlier today, when the bodies of the motel's owner and an unidentified teen were found. Stranger still, the car of Officer Dave Simonak was found nearby. Officer Simonak, reportedly investigating a series of highway murders, has not been seen in 48 hours. If you have any information, please call the Sonia hotline immediately.
But it's clear that they can't even put the real effort into catching a serial killer, considering they only had 1 guy on the case and then died by him. God, they really could not mirror real-life cops more if they tried. More concerned about the oppressed people trying to live their lives than actual criminals. On top of the anti-cop stuff, I think there's more political opinions that they have. The major thing being that they give teens rides to the border. It's established they watch the Sonia show. They would know how teens are not supposed to cross the border or hitchhike. There's a hotline for them.
As you know, the Sonia show is very concerned about our youth who continue to mysteriously disappear. Let's view today's Missing Teen Report. Remember, if you have any information, please call the Sonia hotline.
And there's probably warnings to not give teens rides.
And as a reminder, never stop to pick up hitchhikers, young or old. They could be dangerous. And that's today's Sonia show. Thanks for tuning in.
They would have to know that aiding in teens in any way would be considered a political statement against Iraq. And I feel like with Sonya giving the news, it would impact them more because it's their sister that's telling the viewer not to do this. Obviously, Stan and Mitch don't care for the laws, or even social laws probably, and of course, the devs just probably wanted more ways you can meet Stan and Mitch, and maybe they just want to have more ways to show that they're quote-unquote bad men in Petria, that they're willing to do this. But if they truly were apolitical, realistically, they just wouldn't pick up kids at all. Hell, they wouldn't even give them tips on how to survive in the world, or maybe even just have real discussions about what's going on in Petria, or give them money after a fake hostage situation. But they do this. Even when they come across as antagonistic towards the player, they still help you out in some way. Sonya, Jared, and even Fanny also have their moments where they help out the player too, even if it seems like they're antagonistic towards the teen. I think there's a reason as to why they would even bother helping a crosser, even though it would technically go against their apolitical standpoint. Before getting to that reason, I had to talk about a moment in Road 96, as not only is it a setup as to why they do, but because it made me greatly appreciate Stan and Mitch as characters. When you're going through Zoe's last encounter, you join her in crossing the border so she can get documents that directly connect Tyrak to being the one responsible for the explosion and the peak collapsing in 86.
Classified government documents showing the brigades didn't cause the collapse in 86, like everyone says. Tyrak did it. Mount National was rigged with explosives to prevent avalanches, like every other year. When the brigades tried to take Tyrak out, he triggered the explosion. He believed there were brigades in the crowd, and there were. He wanted to kill them, even if it meant killing other people too. Yeah, they were. For once, the crazy conspiracy theorists were right. Let's just say, my dad has a very important position in the government. I'm going to try. The brigades are gonna help me reach the other side. When I get to the border, they'll send me a signal. And when I cross, if I cross, I'll share this with every foreign news outlet I can.
Right before the two of you are able to get to the exit, Zoe gets shot and she tells you to go.
Security breach!
Go, go!
You can either leave, or you can go and help her cross, causing you to get shot and killed. Leaving her ends up killing her.
Hello, Sonia Sanchez here. Welcome to the Sonia Show. On today's show, we'll take a look at our nation's booming oil industry. With the help of our Minister of Oil, we recorded the following. Just a moment. I have some very important news to share. You're kidding me. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go live to our reporter at the wall. Beatrice, can you hear me?
Yes, Sonia. I'm here at the wall where an attack has just happened. With me is Darren, who witnessed the event.
I'm on? Yeah, so I was sleeping in my tent when I heard a bang, like a big explosion, you know. When I got out, I saw a huge fire at the wall.
Do you know what caused the explosion?
I think a truck smashed into it.
That's right, Sonia. A brigade truck crashed into the wall, killing a teenager on the spot.
Nah, you got it wrong. The truck didn't kill the teen. Border forces did. They're shooting kids all the time. Hey, don't grab my mic.
Uh-oh. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Wish I could say I'm surprised the brigades are behind this, but I can't. Thank you for your report, Beatrice. Have no fear. The authorities will ensure nothing like this occurs on Election Day. Remember, I'll be there, live.
After playing as the 15, you can ask the people what they thought about the teen getting killed. When asking Stan and Mitch about it, they say this.
I
I did. Awful is what it is. We would have saved a kid had we been there.
Yeah, we would have.
How does it make you feel, kid?
There's a lot that I want to unpack with this line alone. For starters, Stan and Mitch are the only two characters in the game that say that they would save the kid from dying, or at the very least bring up the hypothetical situation that they would have. It's very interesting to me, because out of all the people I would expect to say that they would protect civilians or essentially put their life on the line for a teen, I would expect Fanny. I mean, even though I don't believe this sentiment for a second, the whole point of the police is to protect the public. That's at least what they try to sell you. And sure, there are instances where she helps out the player and even lets the teen go free. The only comment that is made from her is this.
Actually, I'd welcome a little chit-chat, kid. My job can be awfully quiet. It should have never happened. That's what I think.
If choosing the cross route, she can say this.
There's never a good reason for a kid to die. That's for sure.
If choosing the brigade route, she just says this.
I hate to see someone die for any reason.
All these responses and her initial statement are so oddly neutral on the subject matter. You would think that she would go out of her way to pin the blame on the brigades, or try to comment on how the police wouldn't stand for this kind of violence.
Today's my lucky day. I'm gonna finally find this brigade transmitter. Unit 2 here. I'm northbound on 42. Over. These brigades. Promise me something, kids. Stay away from them. You're just a kid. What do you know?
It makes me think that she knows the police force at the border did this, but due to her standing as an officer, she can't actually say that, because then she would have to openly acknowledge to someone else that the police killed people and do nothing to protect the public, and probably lose her job. I'm willing to bet that there would be people in Petra reporting that a cop was saying these kinds of things, but that's another topic for another day. Stan and Mitch also asked the player how it makes them feel, and here is their varied responses to what you say. Going with the crosser route.
How does it make you feel, kid? Well, good luck with that and everything.
Yeah, good luck.
Going with the voter route.
Yeah, could be a good time for a change. It's true.
And with the brigade route.
Whoa!
Yeah, whoa.
The voter option sticks with me because Stan and Mitch are clearly content with the life that they lead. In another piece of dialogue, a dialogue option that can only occur early in the game, so before the 14, they can tell you how if Flores was president, they would still steal.
Steal as much as you can.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Nah, I'm pretty sure we'd still steal.
Yeah.
They don't seem like they are willing for all that much to change around them. But with society, change is natural. You can't fight change. You can't fight
gravity.
It seems like they come to an understanding of this once after they hear about the teen dying. That while things may be quote-unquote perfect for them, it's not perfect for anyone else. Or maybe they understand that the country isn't fair to other people. They do give rights to teens and hear their political opinions. While they may not say their own political opinion, they probably still listen to all the teens and form some sort of opinion in their own head. Continuing on with my point, Stan and Mitch's immediate response of how they would have saved the kid is a lot more call to action. They are willing to do something about it rather than say something about it. Getting to the section of the video, I was thinking about how a child died by an oppressive system, but was being labeled in the media as the outcome of the resistance group's violent actions. So either the viewers believe in the narrative that GNN is trying to spin, or they take stock in what the eyewitness said. This would inherently be a political debate in terms of pinning the blame and siding with a group. So I was going under the impression that Stan and Mitch figured that the cops were the ones who killed the kid, being that they made the snide remark about the police being the real criminals, and them hating the cops in general. maybe for them it wouldn't be far-fetched for the cops to pull something like this. But then it hit me as I was reviewing this section of the paper. Stan and Mitch don't actually give a clear indication on who they think killed the teen.
Go on. I know you're dying to ask two robbers like us a question. I did. Awful is what it is. We would have saved a kid had we been there.
Yeah, we would have.
How does it make you feel, kid? Well, good luck with that and everything.
Yeah, good luck.
It somehow still lines up with the apolitical ideology that they've said they've had throughout the whole game. This makes me really appreciate the writing in Road 96 even more, for a lot of reasons. They showcase two neutral standpoints. Fanny and Stan and Mitch both express roughly the same viewpoint. Child dying is sad and awful, in a way that is neutral to what's going on in their mind. Fanny using more neutral language that shows that she is showing more pity and sympathy towards the child dying, and doesn't pin the blame on any specific party member. She's using passive and safe language. Stan and Mitch showing neutrality in the same way that Fanny does, by not pinning the blame on a specific party. But instead of using passive and safe language, and only showing pity and sympathy, I would say they sound more empathetic and compassionate, because they use a lot more active language by giving the suggestion that they would have lent a hand, and also actively asking the player about their feelings, which Fanny doesn't actually do.
It should have never happened. That's what I think. There's never a good reason for a kid to die. That's for sure.
There's this chart that pretty much details how pity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion are very different. So you can see what I mean when I say that their language is different from each other. It's really so subtle, but it's so well done. Because it shows that to them, it didn't matter who done it. All they see is a child dead, regardless of their political standing in this universe. And this is why I think that they go out of their way to give teens advice on the road, why they pick up teens and give them a ride to the border, even though it would technically be siding with the political stance, why they give the kid money after having them be a fake hostage and don't actually hurt the kid. They want to help them out, to do the morally right thing. And as Stan said himself,
my brother and I are morally good, if you mind us the robbing with firearms.
And this is one of the honest statements made by them, which, side note, in my forum, one of the questions I asked, which I won't fully delve into right now, had a few people mention how they believe Stan to be the meaner one out of the duo, while Mitch is more caring and concerning for you, the player, which, yeah, I can agree to an extent, but Stan is the one that offers this idea to you. To think that one is slightly kinder than the other wouldn't be totally honest, since I think Mitch could have his mean moments.
I'll handle this, Stan. Yeah, she just needed to take a little nap. But we lost all our darn money! It's your fault, kid!
Actually, the kid's right. In my momentary fear, I did. Forgive me.
I don't know if I can. Let me think about it. Fine, I forgive you.
Phew, that's a relief. Anyway, for helping us out back there, we'll take you a little ways further.
You hear that? Ugh, that's not the creep after Sonia, is it?
Mitch, this kid is starting to hurt my ears. Show her the beast.
With pleasure.
I think they both have big hearts, but Stan just doesn't show it as much as Mitch. Like, fun detail, every main character you meet can be seen crying, except for Stan.
It's just... sometimes I wish I had died. And she lived.
The really sad part is, I got no memories of them. None. No matter how hard I try.
Trying to get to her under the fallen rocks. But the truth is, I'd have given my whole arm, my whole life to save her. She was the wind in my sails. And I'll miss her for the rest of my days.
I guess I deserve all this. I kept the truth from my baby. Thanks, kid. I appreciate you saying that. I do.
When the day came for the attack in '86, they sent her and some other members to the wall. The detonation didn't go as planned, I guess, and she was buried beneath the rocks.
The iron pits, where Tyrek sends all the crossers. They're brainwashing and torturing kids. I saw it.
A furry friend!
Aw, that's too bad. Happens with the smaller life forms. I should hug more to discourage them from wandering out like this. Kid, you go in fruit events here. Cry me a river, kid.
They both saw what happened, probably on the news when Sonya reported it, and had a discussion about it. It makes me wonder what other discussions they had on the Sonya show. Or maybe this was an unspoken thing between them, that they just decided in their heads that, yeah, if we were there, we would have dropped everything to help the kid. And then it sort of really clicks just how actually morally good or morally aware that they are, regardless of politics. Focusing on Row 96 first, I mentioned how Stan and Mitch have rules. We don't know how many there are, but there's 2 that we know of for sure.
Here's your cash, kid. It's best to honor one's promises. Stan and Mitch rules. We're not gonna hurt you, kid. Just needed a fake hostage. Stan and Mitch rules.
Possibly a third that I will discuss later. The first rule shows their growth that they had from the prologue book, where they left Lou in the dust after the deal went bad if you decide to get them to cut you a percentage. They went through a change in their way of thinking, which I feel like is significant change to make, especially with how old they are in the prologue book. You think 26 would be the time you realize that keeping your promises is an important thing to do, but it's something that they learn or decide to implement in their thievery later on in life, or a different reason. Stan and Mitch's attitude around Lou slightly changes when they see that she has a kid with her. They don't want to rob her because of the kid's presence, and I'm assuming they think Zoe was hers. So maybe afterwards they had discussion on how next time they would honor promises because they don't know what the other person is going through, or something like that. Their second rule is a little more ridiculous. Maybe they just have this rule to look more menacing because people don't take them seriously. But the keyword being a fake hostage. There's probably countless of times that they've done this but ensured that they never got hurt or are in any real danger. Even despite robbing the player, as I've stated many times in the video, and what people have expressed in the forum, they don't actually harm you. Like, okay, being in a hostage and robbery situation would definitely be scarring emotionally and mentally, regardless if those 2 aren't actually the sharpest tools that could harm you. But as far as I can see, there are only 2 instances where they physically hurt you. When Stan punched you out of the car, which I'd always thought he'd use his gun to, get you out, but actually you can see that he just uses his fists. The other instance is when Mitch shows you the beast, which is just him kicking you in your chair and you fall over. Mitch only used his crowbar on the woman once, which, sure, that may have done a great deal of damage that could have led to her death, but that's it. He uses his body to lunge at Jared, and Stan never fires his gun in the game. He does in the prologue book against Lou, those people trying to get her truck, and in Mile Zero about a girl against the people in the cafe. Other times, he just points his gun at teens, like Zoe in About a Girl or you in the Encounters. This will relate to how he says there aren't going to hurt the kid in Some Like It Hot.
We're not gonna hurt you, kid. Just needed a fake hostage. Stan and Mitch rules.
Adults are fair game, especially to the ones that have guns as well. But when it comes to kids and teens, I don't think they would ever actually hurt them. It shows how very aware they are in regards to other people, or at least kids' safety, relating back to my previous point of them saying how they would save the kid, and sort of relates to my next point. In regards to a possible third rule, I think, at the very least in the prologue book, they made a rule to not rob children, because it would cause the children to become robbers like them. There's a lot to unpack there, which I will get to in a bit, but I'm mainly focusing on how that could be a rule. I'm not sure if this rule has changed or if they have an age cap for that, because they rob you, the team player, some being as young as 14 to 15, and Zoe was 8 at the time of the book. Maybe they're fine with robbing teenagers? I can excuse the robbing the teenagers, but robbing small children is where I draw the line. There's also a moment in the Mile Zero book that also showcases their moral beliefs or dilemmas that they have, showing that they aren't completely clueless. I mentioned how in Mile Zero they asked Zoe a question on if robbing was good or bad. They clearly want to hear how robbing is bad because they want to be perceived as bad. But if Zoe says no, it's not because of how corrupt the system is, it surprises them. Probably because they weren't expecting someone to have a similar view on how they view it. I do think deep down they think like this, mainly based on the comment made by Stan in Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, with the cop stopping for the money.
The money! Dare I ask who the criminals are now?
But their next question, asking that, was it okay to kill a killer too? That really is ethical, I guess is the word for it, or at least a moral question. Something that I would never expect to see them asking. But it's very clear that they have talks about what they would do to Sonia's would-be killer if they actually, killed her. It once again shows how much thought they had put into catching this guy and their goal in protecting Sonia. Or the possibility of avenging Sonia. The lengths that they would go to. These concise morals and viewpoints that these two have, I do think it can be attributed to my last and final point about them. That being their hidden tragedy. To go over this, I will create one final timeline to tie things up more neatly. With how the reason for Stan and Mitch's robbing was cut, there's no clear indication on why they started robbing in the first place. But I do like to use Matthew's working theory on why he thinks the two started robbing. This is way back in 2021, so I assume his reasoning could have changed, but at the time he believes that Stan and Mitch and Sonia lived in poverty as children, and that they were orphans that had to take care of Sonia, which included stealing, but they ended up getting addicted to it. There's nothing in this theory that completely makes it implausible. The only thing that should be added is one detail that was mentioned in the prologue book. Stan and Mitch mentioned how they don't rob kids because it would lead them to start robbing places, like what happened to them. So, it's safe to say, at a young age, Stan and Mitch witnessed a robbery that was so traumatic, or at the very least impactful enough to them, that it stuck with them. Maybe at a young age and being in poverty, they saw a robbery happen and took some of the wrong messages from it, being that you would need to steal in order to survive, especially in the climate that Petria is. Like, I would not doubt for a second that Petria is bad taking care of children. It would explain why they give you tips on how to survive the road, i.e. steal as much as you can. They can see a kid trying to make it like how they need to make it in the past. So maybe through their childhood up to their teen years, they were doing this in order to support them and Sonia. More so in the food aspect. Hell, I'm willing to bet that they would rob a super supper in order to eat something, since that's a place that they still rob, but also mention how it's the best place to rob because of lack of security and there's food.
Yeah, that's right. Not much security. And there's food.
And honestly, the way Mitch says this seems like it's a child's reasoning, which, now that I think about it, all their answers for the quiz seem childlike in nature, saying the best getaway vehicle is a helicopter, not because it's cool, or that it'd be harder for people to catch you, but because...
Yeah, because from inside it, people look like ants. Stan and I were saving up for one. We were 0.1% of the way there.
Talking about how robbing when it's foggy is the best because it's less visible and also makes them more mysterious.
Yeah, that is the best time to rob. Visibility is low and mysteriousness is high.
And the final answer for the last question being that the best thing to do with the money is to bounce with it on the bed.
Is this your final answer?
Yes, that is the best thing to do.
We need not explain why, for obvious reasons.
These all just seem like funny one-off jokes to make you think that they're dumb as rocks, but to me, really shows how much these two are sort of stuck as these adults that never got to experience childhood and grow up properly. Sort of a stunt growth due to the conditions they lived in as poor orphans, and maybe only sticking to fast food as a diet. Eventually, though, through some way or another, Sonia gets a job working as a reporter. It's unclear in the book how long she had this job for at GNN as a weather reporter, or what she did to get qualified for it. Looking it up, you need a bachelor's degree in journalism or communications and have experience in telecommunications. That's a course for the modern day. I wouldn't know what it was like for the 1980s, or if Petra works the same way with that stuff. Sonia is 23 in 1986, so it could be possible that she went to a university. She's slightly past college age. Maybe Stan and Mitch robbed places to help her go to college, or a likely thing, with how fraudulent and not really concerned about quality of their work is at GNN, i.e. the propaganda being based on nothing, the fact that they tell Sonia to lose the accent because they think she sounds smart without it.
Because on the news, I talk like this. When in reality, I talk like this. GNN thinks I sound smarter without the accent. BS if you ask me.
They could have literally just been like, okay, we'll hire you because you look pretty and we need a pretty face for the camera because we need views. Of course, Sonia could still have a degree and they just don't value her actual work for it. Either way, at this point, Stan and Mitch, if going off Matthew's theory, have gotten addicted to robbing places. Maybe upping their skills from food and pickpocketing to maybe breaking into people's homes. It could be possible that they had Sonia come along for some of their small robberies. But when it's 1986 and they're going to rob an establishment for the first time, they want Sonia to be a part of it, wanting her to experience the joy that they feel. But she doesn't. She just moves on to a different career path. And while I don't have full concrete support of this, I think here they have a falling out. Maybe more so coming from Sonia than Stan and Mitch. First off, Sonia ends up getting all this money from her job. But she doesn't share it with Stan and Mitch to help them live comfortably. They all grew up in poverty, and with Stan and Mitch helping her to stay alive, maybe she'd want to pay them back in some way, especially if the college theory sticks. But, okay, maybe they don't want her money and are really doing this more for the thrill than the money. But there's the other thing. Sonia doesn't reciprocate the contact with them after they start robbing places. Here's my evidence for that. They somehow end up finding her address, which actually just maybe was made public since Sonia reports from there in Mile Zero. But it's clear that Stan and Mitch keep contact with her. That letter that I read earlier truly is heartbreaking to read. We are so lonely. Sure, Stan and Mitch may play things up for dramatics, but I think they were speaking from the heart with that. And I know I mentioned how they probably didn't add a phone to Mile Zero because Matthew couldn't come to record, so you couldn't contact them, but I feel like that could reflect the mindset Sonia has. For whatever reason, she can't or won't contact them. Maybe from shame or from something else. And she clearly doesn't own her own actual phone, since she doesn't know what a cell phone is.
Listen, I've had a little limo crash. Would you be a doll and give me a ride to a payphone? What's that? You're a little special, aren't you? Oh, that's sweet.
It could be possible that the fame has made her so busy that she doesn't have time to. Regardless, it's clear when they try to talk to her, they can't. Now, in About a Girl, they mentioned how they were going to a Tyrak donor party as a special guest because of her, but I really don't believe that they were put in any special list. Sure, they are known at this point as Stan and Mitch, but I doubt Sonia would want them to be at that party due to the risk of being arrested. Which, I have my explanation as to why it could be like that. I see it more likely that Stan and Mitch assumed they were invited or that they were going to use it as an opportunity to get back into contact with her. And even then, there's no evidence to suggest that they went in the end. We see them rob a super supper after that moment, which again would aid in that theory that they're just addicted to robbing places. And that in itself is a sad thing to imagine. It's also very clear they do not keep in contact in Road 96, as well as aiding in the theory that there was a falling out between them. When getting the encounter from Sonia, she's in a motorcycle and is reminded of Stan and Mitch, though She doesn't say this directly. If you get this before the 15, she says this.
Well, of my past, I haven't been so kind to the ones I love lately.
Referring to Stan and Mitch. This dialogue could hint at the falling out and not keeping in contact with them. She also acknowledges that her being famous isn't an excuse.
It is sometimes, but I'm not sure that's an excuse. But thanks for saying that. It's sweet.
If you get it after the 15, she says this.
Well, of my past. Saw my brothers recently. It'd been ages. Made me realize how much I missed spending time with them. I'm not gonna make that mistake again.
Cementing that she really didn't respond to that letter, or actually invite them to Tyrak's party. Also, I'm adding this recording in because I forgot to mention this part in my original draft. When you choose the option, "Why haven't you been so nice?" she'll say this.
I guess they remind me of the girl I once was. A scared little girl with nothing.
This response clearly shows that anything that reminds her of her brothers is hard for her, or even traumatic for her, possibly due to the lifestyle that they had growing up. And this can actually serve as a reason as to why she doesn't keep in contact with her brothers. And whether Stan and Mitch realize this is unknown, though I'm guessing it's more unknown as they're still trying to contact her. I feel like if they knew this about her, they probably wouldn't try to keep in contact. They seem like they would be respectful of her space, and probably wouldn't maliciously invade it. I mean, they don't force her to do the robbery with them at the video store. Or maybe they do know this about her, but are only trying to keep in contact with her because there's a guy after her. Anyway, this feeling that she has, I'm more inclined to believe that she internalized it and never told her brothers, mainly because she doesn't open up about much until she gets drunk.
Here you are in a limo with Petria's #1 celebrity, and you don't want to party? Weird. But I get it. I do. You don't like me. You're one of those holier-than-thou Black Brigades. Well, for your information, Aunt Sonia doesn't like herself very much either. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Something no one else knows. Something bad happened once. Really bad. 10 years ago, a young girl died during one of my broadcasts. There was an explosion, and she was under the mountain peak. I tried to save her as the rocks came down. I did. But by the time I got there, well, it was too late. From what I know, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Lola was her name. But enough of all that. That's enough crying for one day. Don't worry. Aunt Sonia just had to get the poison out. All better now. Wait, what was I talking about before all this? Anyway, that's in the past. And who cares about that? Only those unhappy in the prison.
She seems to bottle up things inside, so maybe during the time of their first robbery, she decides that she doesn't want to be a part of that lifestyle, and cuts off communication so she doesn't have to relive those experiences again. And to her it feels unkind because she knows the reason why she doesn't talk to them, but hasn't told them. It feels in line with her character traits, as she doesn't wear her heart on her sleeve when it comes to her deepest, darkest secrets, which still aids into the theory that I have that they had a falling out, but it was more on Sonia's end. It's just not as bad as it sounds when I first suggested the idea, because I hate to make it seem like she doesn't care about anything or anyone. It's so very clear that she still loves them. Evidence for that is that she doesn't want them to get arrested. And nothing's going to stop us now. After you complete that encounter and see the report for the next teen to choose, Sonia says how there were sketches of them, but due to technical difficulties, she can't show them.
Hello, Sonia Sanchez here. Welcome to the Sonia Show. We don't often begin with a lighter story, but today we're doing just that. As we all know, criminals aren't always the brightest bulbs in the box. Well, earlier today, desperate to get away from police hot on their trail, two bumbling robbers threw the only thing they could at the police chasing them. That's right, the money they'd just stolen. Talk about throwing your money away. Unfortunately, the suspects evaded the police. We were sent some sketches of the criminals, but due to technical difficulties, are not able to share them with you tonight.
It's possible she has done this multiple times with them. It's sad to imagine that they had some type of falling out or loss of communication, for one reason or another. I think to me the kicker of this is that Stan and Mitch still have this big brother mentality and go and protect her. I think them learning about Jared and how he's planning to kill her takes them out of their desires for robbing places, at least halfway or temporarily. It helps them get it together and help her. My sister also brought up a good point in her newest video, which you should also go and watch, that came out while I was making the script, that it's more than likely how Stan and Mitch could be suffering mentally with the constant fear about Sonia's safety and not being able to let anyone else know about how Sonia is endangered. Or at the very least, not anyone official because of their criminal standing point. And also the fact that they're perceived as idiots because their troubles that they have with robberies. I doubt anyone would take them seriously. And that they could also be suffering physically as they can't focus on themselves really because they're trying to catch this would-be killer. The only person that they can get extra help from is you, the player. Which may also be another reason for my argument as to why they choose to help you out. Honestly, my sister's whole video is a fantastic watch. Take the time to view it for yourself. Matthew mentioned how Stan and Mitch are always there and loyal to their blood, despite being dumb, and I think that this could not be more true. When they are reunited before Election Day, it's so very clear that they have no ill will towards Sonia, just unconditional love for their sister, and the same goes for Sonia.
Woohoo! We got him, Mitch! We got the would-be killer!
Woohoo!
Stan? Mitch?
Wait, you know these two S&M guys?
Know them? They're the Big Brothers!
Hi, Sonia.
Oh, hi, Sonia.
You two come here and give me a hug! Now!
Right away,
Yeah.
ma'am.
On our way.
It's so good to see you two! It's been too long!
I don't want to rain on your family reunion, but he's gone.
Not a problem. We'll be here on Election Day, if he comes back.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Stan! Aw, Mitch! Oh, I'm sorry I've been so distant. I hope you can forgive me.
Don't worry about it, Sonia.
Yeah, don't worry. We're a family.
Aw, you guys are the best. Now give me another hug.
When putting all of that into perspective, all the supplemental material, the analyzing of everything, it makes me realize how strong these two characters are in their development. It also made me realize other things. The first thing that I realized is maybe I didn't have to do a deep dive into this topic with all the supplemental material. I could have just used the base game to infer that they are tragic based off of the lines that they're given about how Sonia has been kind to them, how they still love her even though she doesn't keep in contact. But to counter, the supplemental material really adds more to help you realize how intense this was. The mask they had for her to join in, the letter they sent to her of wanting to hear from her, the more unethical debates they've been having about how to deal with the killer. The added layers to the encounters that shows their competence as robbers, investigators, and big brothers, it all helps to show this. Second thing is that I think to assume that they didn't have a relation to the politics of Petra, or that they seemingly didn't have enough emotional substance, was a mistake on my part when I had first started to write this video. Sure, the political connection was much stronger with the couples and AIDS plotline, as well as thinking it was more tragic than what we got. I mean, in a lot of ways, that is a tragic thing to happen to somebody, especially to have it affect one member of a dynamic duo. It definitely would have been a lot to digest in this relatively short game, if they got it right at least, and disastrous if they got it wrong. But with them being robbers, being anti-law and the cops barely going after them, showcasing the flaws of this country, still has political merits and undertones. And what they lack in political opinions on the surface level, they make up for it in morals, despite the crimes they commit. And they have a lot of emotional substance and tragic themes even without the AIDS plotline. My theory on their mask design resembling the theater mask I think still holds up with their final versions, that they represent comedy and tragedy. It's just not directly associated with one character now, but to their lifestyle as a whole. In fact, I could kinda consider the whole plotline C, that being Stan and Mitch, Sonia and Jared, to be sort of a tragedy or drama akin to Shakespeare. You have the comic relief duo, themes of death and murder, familial bonds, and the struggles that come with it. Hell, Jared whistles a song from the opera Lakme. Not Shakespeare, but it still ties to theater.
Sorry, forgot you were back there.
There could be a lot more to be said about that, as well as the other plot lines in other videos, if I feel like it. If the theory is true that they were orphans trying to steal to survive, then Petria fell them as children. But even without it, they still separated from Sonia, still wanting a connection, and are probably word sick every night that they haven't caught the guy, and are afraid to see a report that she died. That's very tragic to think about. The third thing relates to how often people in the forum talked about how these two were a much needed break from the politics, that they're fun and silly and dumb, and I think all those things are true. The other response in my sister's video for the nobody's supposed to be here encounter mentioned how they loved it because it showed how ridiculous, non-threatening, and incompetent they were. And I think it was wrong of me to assume in order for these characters to be good or as impactful as others, they need to have that depth. Sometimes goofy characters are goofy characters, and a break from politics is needed from time to time. Maybe the curtain is blue because it's blue. But again, devil's advocate, and pretty much the whole reason why I made this video, I love these characters so much. It would be a massive shame if people just assumed that these two were just the funny and comic relief duo and nothing more. If the author specifies that the curtain is blue, that detail was likely put in there for a reason. I think this one response in the doc, given by the same person who gave the response about the subplot with the cut content I specifically stated earlier, gave a response about their feelings on Stan and Mitch, which I think more or less captures the whole point of this video. My last encounter during my own playthrough was Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, but I went on to play this game with friends multiple times, so this isn't the last encounter I had with them overall. After my first playthrough, I think my idea of them being more comic relief and lighthearted characters still remains, but I also underestimated their role in the greater story and also failed to recognize the serious aspects of their characters. These characters' interactions have generally been more goofy, making the player assume that they're stupid and harmless, while they never kill the player themselves, as far as I know, rather only rough you up in a few encounters. There are consequences to being too nice and helping them. When you break into a happy taxi, these guys do not hesitate to leave you at the end, which, if you don't escape in time, means that you can get caught. While they do help you out, such as picking you up when you're hitchhiking or giving you money after robbing the fast food place, at the end of the day, they are criminals with their own goals in mind, and don't hesitate to abandon you in favor of those goals. For a while, I saw Stan and Mitch as a direct contrast to Jared. These characters are apolitical criminals, but are very different. Jared was more successful in his crimes, both in completion and getting away with it. However, the way he gets away with it appears in one part due to his cleverness and another part due to the incompetence of the people around him. He was a competent criminal surrounded by incompetent people. Stan and Mitch, on the other hand, I view as more as incompetent criminals surrounded by more competent people by the end of my own playthrough. This is due to their failure to rob a laundromat and the need for help from the player in the fast food scene and the happy taxi scene. I question their ability to succeed in these areas without the player's help. However, this comparison is also not entirely fair because Stan and Mitch escape the cops easily. If you fall in, nothing's going to stop us now. And the fact that they have money in the scene show they are competent enough to rob a bank, which you would think would be harder than the laundromat. And for Jared, a character shown to be competent for the most part, was easily taken down during the conclusion of the side story. Although, these successes make me wonder if this is due to their skill or due to lucky charms they carry around, which in theory increases their luck. The more I think about these characters as representing something in the greater picture of their own story, but also Road 96 setting as a whole, the more I like them and take their characters more seriously. Thoughts are a bit chaotic, but hopefully this says something of value in your video. Honestly, to the person who wrote this, you somehow pretty much said what I wanted to say when I was making this video. Oh yeah, and a fourth and final thing, in my doc I decided to include a bonus question that asked, out of the two, who is your favorite? Which was the question I was alluding to earlier when I had mentioned how people found Stan more meaner than Mitch. I made a mandatory question to ask because I didn't want people to skip over it. These were seemingly the end results so far. Each reason as to why they picked one over the other was very interesting. But in hindsight, I should have added a both option, because many say in a variety of ways that you can't have one without the other, and that they're both great as a duo together. And I really agree with that. I mean, I have my personal favorite.
Cry me a river, kid.
But to try to separate these two is a mistake. These two are a package deal, a 2-in-1 combo. These two are Stan and Mitch. I didn't realize how long this was going to take, or how long it was going to be, whatever the final time in this video is. I'm assuming it's long.
Wait, are you listening to all that? Crap, me and my big mouth. Don't tell anyone I said any of that.
Because it took so long to record this. But I just love these two so much, and the Road 96 universe in general. I feel like I have a lot more to say about the other characters as well, but I'm not sure if I should make a video or not about them. After this video comes out, I will be working on another video that is actually going to be a collab, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll link it in the comments when that video is done. I'll also be doing more of these videos where I just look at things, but those will take some time to make. And I'm sure the quality will get better over time, because as I was recording, I could just sense how rough this will be as my first video, but hopefully this will be a learning lesson for me. Any and every feedback is valuable, or just giving your thoughts about Stan and Mitch, or Road 96 in general. I love this game so much. I will put up sources in the description of the things that I talked about, as well as on screen, the video clips that I use as well. Who knows, maybe if they make more content with Road 96, I might make an update to this video. But that's for Digit Art to decide. Would be great if they could make more content with them. I'll also put my sister's videos in the description below, so you can look at it for yourself. I had a lot of fun making this video, and again, I can't stress enough on how you should play Road 96 for yourself. Thank you for watching the video.